Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
Let's start with that because you brought in this gift, a Midwinter Night's Dram, which, if there's anything I've learned about whiskey in the short amount of time that I've been drinking it, like i.e. a year, you guys over at the MMA Bourbon Society don't fuck around.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of collection going with it.
Yeah.
So
When Matt and so before I started this podcast, I was asking Matt like a bunch of questions, like technical. I was like, what cameras, audio, things like that. And he's like, hey, come down. We're going to do an episode of the MMA Bourbon Society. It's at Jimmy Range's house. It was actually the episode that Colton Cole was on.
yeah,
And I was like, as long as everyone else is cool with it, like I'd be more than down.
You're always
to be a
welcome,
fly
dude.
in the wall. It was actually a lot of fun. You guys have a pretty cool thing going on there. I don't really want to get into the discussion of like how it started because I've already had that conversation with Jeremy. But what I would like to ask you is, you know, is it everything that you sought it out to be? Like, what was your intention for the show? And is it the sanctuary that you thought it would be?
I do think it's actually gone beyond what we thought it would be. I mean, without going into details, you know, it started as a joke.
Yeah.
And from there,
Like a Facebook post,
it was
right?
a Facebook post that we had. The three of us are sitting in a bar, and we were joking. If we threw something out, people are going to follow it. And we jokingly did it, and then we started doing it in my dining room. My wife has put up with us for 5 years now of
God
doing
bless.
this at the house. 3 drunks, because you know I don't have to. All I do is walk upstairs to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I can be the biggest lush out of the three of us. But no, I mean it has really grown. I don't think at the time, and we were chasing whiskeys then. I mean, we were chasing our bourbons and after it, but it's just grown to the point now that what haven't we had that we want? I mean, we've managed to chase it down between Jeremy and I.
Can you describe chasing to someone? Because to the uninitiated, chase usually is a adjective or pejorative about drinking. So like you'll drink something and then you will chase it with something else
That's a good
to
call.
offset the alcohol. But that's not what you mean.
No,
When you're talking
it's-
about chasing whiskey.
There's bottles we don't have, like the one I brought here. I picked this one up a couple years ago. I've probably got, and this is the 10th release of it. It comes out annually, and you got to find it and get lucky to get it.
It's beautiful, by the way. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
I am.
I thought I'd do something different.
No.
'Cause I've known a lot of whiskeys you've had, and I'm like, let's go down a rye rabbit hole with it.
It doesn't taste like a rye either, which is the craziest part. Like I said off the record, whenever I think about a rye, I think, oh man, I'm going to go for like a whirlwind. And you know what's funny? It's the third sip now, and it's like something else different too.
I'm starting to get that caramel coming
Yes.
out a lot.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? Okay.
Yep.
I hate to say it this way because I don't want to sound like a snob. The reason why I didn't cater towards wine and why I found an affinity towards whiskey was because I felt like wine had this connotation of like aristocracy to it or wealth. And I was never that guy. Whiskey is much more this, I hate to say it this way, but like, you know, Rust Belt or like old Americana type feeling. So I thought that resonates more with me. I was
Yeah.
a poor boy growing up, like whiskey should be my drink. And what's funny is the amount of variance in whiskeys sounds so reminiscent to a lot of the language that I hear used about wine. So you have a sommelier for wines, and now in the whiskey world, you have whiskey stewards.
Right.
And I just think it's funny how I, gravitated towards this thing because I was trying to run away from what I thought was like this depth, and I was like, I'm just looking for a good time. And now look at me, it followed me.
But I think the one thing I love about whiskey, though, is the fact, like with the chase. I mean, you've been at the house, you know, I've got everything from a $15 bottom shelf at the liquor store bottle
You got bottles I can't find.
through those that you have to chase. And I love some of those $20 bottles as much as I love some of my higher end ones. But that chase is, some bottles are limited. This comes out annually. So if you don't get it, how do I find it? I find somebody that's got it that I can trade for or something. So there is the pursuit. I mean, we've talked about secondary market on our show and that you can have it. It's not the best way to get it because the prices can be pretty absurd. But
Can
into
you dive into that a little
Yeah.
bit? Because once again, someone might be listening and have no idea what you're talking about. But
yeah,
so there's retail,
there's
secondary.
retail, and you'll walk into some stores, you'll see retail at one store is one price, and you'll walk in another one to be double or triple that. Well, they're essentially charging secondary market prices on it. And what that comes down to is there's markets where you can go buy, sell, trade. Bottles you can't normally find that are out there that, especially some of the older ones. Um, I'm talking older releases, like I've got that Heaven Hill 27 that I traded for a couple times now with it, that it was from the Fire in 19 at Heaven Hill. And they managed to save enough older barrels that they had a one-time release of those high-end or the older age, 27 years and up.
To elaborate, what you meant was there was a fire at the
At
distillery.
the distillery, one of the rick houses burned down.
And they were going to lose the barrels of whatever they were able to salvage. They
They
were
had-
actually able to make
A special release.
a special release from those barrels.
And so it's a 27 year, so they were all aged 27 years or longer.
I never asked you this because we actually never sat down and talked about whiskey like this. I know that when I was on the podcast, it was more specific to the whiskeys that we had on hand at the studio, right? And it was basically like those three that we were kind of going over and whatever mixed drink Jeremy was making.
Right.
It was a very fun experience, but this is, I have the advantage now of being able to dive a little deeper. So if you don't mind, I will.
No, go ahead.
I enjoy whiskey strictly for the flavor delta. I said it before and I'll say it again. Some days I could feel an Angel's Envy. Some days I could feel a Glenlivet with a Sphere. Some days I could feel a mixed drink, maybe a Maker's and Coke. If I'm just like, I don't really want to drink that much. Like I'm just trying to like be social. There seems to be like a whiskey or a cocktail for whatever it is that I'm feeling any day of the week, what have you. But for you and for Jeremy specifically, you guys seem to have like this extra layer of the nuance associated with the alcohol. How much of your infatuation with whiskey is chasing the bottle? Is owning a specific bottle that might be rare with never... Has there ever been a bottle that you bought that you didn't drink just to own, just because you wanted to have it? Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second. I'd greatly appreciate it. And on with the show.
I've got 2 bottles at the house that the boys will not let me open.
And why is that? Rarity?
One is a 1990 Blanton before they added the S and the letters on the horses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, it's supposed to be some of the best juice ever. So one of these nights, I'm going to have the right people at the house, and we're going to open it and share it. I was talking to a buddy the other day about it. And another one is
So before it was Blantons, it was Blanton.
It was Blanton before they started marketing. The horse does not have a letter on the end of it. There's no S. I've got the gift box with it. And that's part of the reason I'm not opening it too.
The story?
Just because I've got the gift box and
kit.
everything that it came with. But at the same time, I've got a lot of whiskey in the house, and I share it all. I mean, there's nothing that we don't open at some point in time. Unless I get something that I'm like, it's not worth opening it. I'm going to trade it or sell it and get something else for it.
So it's not necessarily about holding on to these rare drinks.
Right.
Is it about... So then what is the mystique or what is the draw to you outside of just the enjoyment of the liquor itself? Is there a draw to you? Because you're much more...
It's the chase of me finding those bottles I don't have that I want, trying to get those.
But you're chasing those to drink them or
Yes.
to just have them? So
No,
it's also to experience them.
Yes. I don't have anything that I just put on display that I don't open. Except for like those 2 bottles.
What's the other one? So there's Blanton and then...
The other one's a Blanton's as well. It's a 2019 Polish release. And I've heard it's really good juice too, so it may get opened or it may be something that I do away with. But like we had the Chessmen. You've heard us talking about those, right?
Yes.
That's 1969. Old Crow released a series of Chessmen, 32 pieces, a tan and a green color, a full chess set. and a rug that went with it. I got one of those, and the boy's like, "You're not opening it." I go, "Yeah, we are one night. We're going to open it one night." New Year's show a couple years ago. Cracked the seal on it. Cork broke in it, so we had to poke the cork out. I got the filters out. We filtered it and that. Oh my God, it's true. I've
That
never had
good?
anything that good before.
Really?
Yes.
When you say that good, can you kind of extrapolate? Because, like I said earlier, there seems to be a wide delta between whiskeys, and that there seems to be a whiskey that I would enjoy in any certain circumstance. So when I think of like a good whiskey, I start to think of things of like flavor, acidity, but I'm curious to hear what your version of a quote unquote good whiskey would be.
A good whiskey to me is going to be something that hits on the nose, that you can just sit there and savor it. Like you talked about wine earlier. Part of the experience with wine is the aroma. When you get that on your nose with a whiskey, it's the same way. It's the reason some of the, like the Glencairn glass is shaped like it is, to bring out the essence of it. Right. And then on the palate with it, you can just sit there and taste it and let it sit there, and then the finish of it as well. This one, all top to bottom, the nose on it just kind of jumps at you and sits there. The palate, great flavor profile, a little bit of caramel. So, I mean, for something that was bottled 46 years ago, and I cracked it open, say, a year ago. So it'd been bottled for 45 years.
Does whiskey operate in the same realm of wine as if it's aged properly, it amplifies, or am I incorrect in that assessment?
And once it's bottled, it will not age any further. It stays.
So it's basically,
All the aging is done inside the barrels.
which makes sense because that's the whole purpose of
Right.
whiskey is
Now,
like the wood.
If you bring in the sunlight too much or the cork breaks, this one, by the time we did get done pouring it out, there was a little bit that was starting to get darker in that. So I put that in a separate bottle. I'll probably filter that a little bit more.
And it's still what, edible, you think? Or I guess not edible, but
Drinkable?
consumable. Yeah.
We didn't try it yet. I've still got a little bit of the good stuff. But next time you're at the house,
Yeah, give
we'll
me
have
your
a
sloppy
pour of that.
seconds.
no, we'll pour the good stuff still, because I've got a little bit left of it. So, like I said, what we've got at the house is for whoever comes over. I open the bar up to everybody.
Can I tell you something that has been an amplification to my professional career that I never thought it would be? And that is developing a palate for alcohol to speak about it eloquently and educated in the midst of other successful men. I never thought that being able to talk about whiskey or like the differences of whiskey would ever help me in my professional career. And by no means am I a whiskey steward. I could not tell you about.
Well, we're
the
not Jeremy
barrels.
Johnson, so
Yeah, right. Jeremy's like, dude, I thought I knew something about whiskey, and then Jeremy's like, shut the fuck up, kid. Like, let me put you in your place.
he's got a palate for it too. I mean, he's got to me, he's got one of the best palates around. We talk about Fred Minnick and that. Jeremy will sit there and you won't even show him the proof, and he'll nail the proof.
I appreciate it.
I do
appreciate
too.
it because I think it's the same way I look at like anything else in life. Like if you're above average at whatever it is that you're doing, I have an appreciation for a successful mindset, right? You could be the best chess player. Chess might be a game that I enjoy, but it's not a game that I'm obsessed with. But I can still find some sort of reverence for the skill set, especially the passion that you have in it. Because I have passions in my own life. So, like, in that sense, I can respect Jeremy's appreciation and observance of the thing without necessarily having to go to that same level.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know, man. I've been at a couple of functions now with, like, older men that are much more successful and wiser than I am. And it seems like just having a little bit of knowledge, the simple that I had about certain whiskeys, what's hard to find, what's easy to find, what's good, what's bad, what should be mixed with what, just the limited knowledge that I've had has amplified me. It's been like, it's allowed me because there's an age bias for sure.
Yep.
And it's allowed me kind of like a seat at the table. Like, oh, hey, this guy's a little young, but he's cool. He can hang. And that to a younger crowd might mean like he can hang in the sense of being wild. But to an older crowd, it just means like he's sophisticated enough or maybe at least mature enough to appreciate the night. And it's been good for me.
No, I completely agree and can see that aspect of it, because it does open up a whole other world of conversation with people.
Absolutely.
I mean, the bourbon group I'm in, we just had a poker night together a couple weeks ago, or last weekend. And that everybody brought a different bottle. We do bottle shares, play a night of poker. lost my ass, but I had a great night of drinking that. If I'd gone out to the bar and had the Porsche that I had, it would have cost me a whole lot more than what I lost at the poker table that night.
Can I ask you a question? And if this interferes with like your employment, then please, by all means, do not ask or answer. Do you partake in any other? So alcohol is like something that you consume, obviously. I just had Jake Van Lin shoot on, and he's the CRO of Kind Goods, which is a marijuana dispensary company. Do you partake in that as well?
I do not, just because of being in the consulting world.
Gotcha.
Some of my clients may require testing in that, so
You want to make sure that you.
I stay clean for that reason alone.
Got you. I wanted to ask a question, and if you feel like you're not up to par to answer, then by all means be like, hey, I'm not educated enough. I find that with alcohol, there seems to be a social aspect to it, where the inebriation livens up the room. It's much more socially acceptable to do. You can go to a work function and have a drink. You can go to a work dinner, a work lunch, what have you. I mean, if it's an open bar, no one's going to bat an eye. I don't think that marijuana has gotten to that, but I also don't think that marijuana is as a social inebriation drug as alcohol. And I'm curious to hear from you if there is an opinion on the difference between an alcohol consumer and a marijuana consumer. Because I think there is.
I think there is too, and I put a lot of it towards people's age and the way they view it. And corporate looks at it differently because it has been outlawed for so long and getting people to accept it. But like my mom, my father-in-law, completely against it. But similar to what we were talking about earlier, like
Even
the smell
today?
of it, even today, even though it's legal. I'm
Interesting.
like, it's legal, so what? I don't like it.
Interesting.
But even like my father-in-law doesn't like the smell of it.
That's fair. That's also my
I
critique.
mean, some people are like that with it, but I mean, to me, it's your preference. I mean, Bob Barton and I, great friend of his before he passed away. I miss him dearly. I mean, you see constantly whenever I've got a memory pop up, the whole world's going to know I'm thinking about Bob that day.
Yeah.
But every trip we took, and we were taking 4 to 5 trips a year, chasing wildlife. And first thing we did when we landed, Bob hit the dispensary. Didn't smoke. He gave it up for his career. The day he retired, boom. But yeah, so I'd sit in the car with Bob.
How did you meet Bob?
Here's the funny story. Let's talk about me in fight photography and that. I'd known who Bob was. And it's funny.
Because of the boxing world, or how did you know
Just,
who Bob was?
I knew who he was from photography and
Gotcha.
seeing his pictures and that. I had initially sent like an email to Rumble Time looking to see if they need a shooter. And this was after I'd been shooting for a little while, and I didn't know Steve at the time and Blake. And the ironic thing is, my brother played soccer with Steve in high school and that, so they both knew each other and everything. But I'm shooting one of Jenkins' shows.
Jim Jenkins back in the day.
Yeah.
Gateway to the Top
I
fighting
mean,
series.
Exactly. And hell, was before the Gateway to the Top even started. It was his early shows there.
Oh, shit.
And I'm sitting there shooting and that, and I go, Jim, is that Bob Barton sitting there? Yeah. I go, it's really fucking Bob Barton. You know, a little kid when they see their idol or that, or you get to meet that star athlete you want to meet. I was like a little kid in a candy shop and sat down and talked to Bob for 20 minutes while we were waiting for intermission to be done and get back to shoot and talk to him some more. Started getting to know each other, he'd give me tips. There were nights I'd post pics and I'd be half asleep. And he'd call me up. Hey, go look at that picture you posted. Why the hell did you post that? Go look at it. You're
Meaning
a
it was
CFH
what,
off.
bad?
I was a CFH out of focus.
So he was that much of a.
Hey, the last picture you posted represents all of your work.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah. So he turned into a mentor and a great friend.
I've heard the quote before, never meet your heroes. Not to say that Bob was a hero of yours or if that's how you thought of him, but it seems like you had a positive experience from meeting someone physically that you had reverence for.
Oh, yeah, I totally admired his work as a
Okay.
shooter and everything.
And that he was everything that you expected of him as the person, as the character, as what you
And then
envisioned.
some. I mean, we shot way before I started shooting Jesse's shows with Shamrock. I was shooting with Rumble Time and that with Bob. And before the shows, me, him, and the sports writers, We'd sit down out there to Star and that and have dinner at the sports bar. And we always sat on the rail. And we talked to every fighter walking by. And they all stopped by to talk to Bob.
Yeah.
They all wanted to say hi to Bob and that. And I mean, that's the guy he was. But no, I mean, it was everything about him and that, and then his guidance and everything. And then when he was starting to have some conflicts between shows, he said, Jesse, I think Jimmy's the guy to take my spot shooting for you. And he focused more on Rebel Time at that point because they were having conflicting shows.
Yeah. That was back when Rebel Time was in full steam.
Full steam, yeah.
And Shamrock was also in full steam with Lumiere. And
Yeah, we had Lumiere. Phenomenal venue to shoot.
Lumiere?
Oh, God, it was the worst lights ever. No, Ambassador was worse, but...
Really? What do you think now of, like, out of curiosity? Because, okay, this is not something I ever thought about, but when I was at the last Nemesis Fighting Alliance, forgive me. It was the last show that they had where the tornado rolled through. So the factory, like, lost power. They were on a generator. They basically, like, you know, NFA puts all this money, and so does Shamrock, by the way. They put all this money on the production, the lights, the audio, all this other stuff. Well, because the tornado ran through, you're basically like, all the lights are on. You have no audio. You have, like, nothing. They had to actually, like, live stream from Instagram Live the last, like, 3 fights. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they're like, hey, we sold a pay-per-view. We have, like, an obligation. It kind of reminded me, in that one night, I got to see, like, new age fighting with, you know, obviously the fighting itself has gotten better because the fighters have gotten better, but also, like, the production has gotten better, like the lights and the audio and everything. They had, like, a live band play, Inimical Drive in the cage and everything beforehand. And then by the end of the night, the last 3 or 4 fights ended the way I started my career. At the heart of St. Charles with all the lights on, nothing special. You just walked to the cage. Maybe you had entrance music. Maybe you didn't. And you got out there and you threw down. And it was interesting to see the contrast of, like, the end of the night was very reminiscent to, like, the early parts of my career.
Yeah.
While the beginning of the night was very, I mean verbatim, the way I ended my career. What do you think about, it's a tough question that I'm trying to ask. What do you think about the you know, the entertainment factor of the production? And do you think that in some way it inhibits, amplifies? What do you think about MMA and the show? Not necessarily the fights, but the show that it has become now versus those humbler days. Where, can I be honest with you? Sometimes I fought and there was no photographer.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like your buddies on their flip phones. Like, this was 2011, 2012. So, like, people still had Razor telephones with 1-2 megapixel cameras. And, like, you were lucky to get a non-blurry photo.
Yeah.
So whenever you guys were in town, I was like, oh shit, we're special.
But, like, my first fights was Craig's brother Jason's show.
Oh my God.
Over in Alton in a parking garage.
Yeah.
First show I ever shot.
That's crazy. I forget that Craig's brother did those shows.
Yeah, Jason put on a few shows. I think there's a place for the walkout and everything like that. I think it's great for the fighters because it's gotten to the point that fighters promote themselves. They got to do it much more. They should.
They should promote.
They should promote, and they always should have. But when you get them walking out, you got their name up behind it. It's like if you're a boxer and you're at Madison Square Garden and there's the banner going around below that upper level that you've got their name up there during it. That was missing for quite a while. We didn't have that. You had the announcer calling your name when you're walking out, and then boom, you had the fight. There was nothing else going on with it. So I think it's great from the fighter's perspective with that. I think something that and it's just Jim Range's preference.
Yeah.
It's gotten out of control with 20 people in the cage when you're announcing winners.
Meaning there's like the camera guy, the photographer, the second photographer, the third photographer, the second camera guy, the production guy.
You've got everybody in there on their cell phones. I remember the first time I tried to step in the cage when Bob was, or the boxing when Bob was the primary photographer. I thought he was going to kick me in the ass out the ring. I had the dirtiest look. Get your ass out here. You shoot from outside.
Yeah.
Because I think where it draws from, you want the fighters facing the camera and facing the video, which is why the primary video guy and the photographer stand so close to each other. because they're looking forward. You're not looking left and right. We're trying to shoot from the same spot.
Yeah, you're working together.
But now we've got social media on the right. The person then you've got, not picking on Scrappy, but using him, he's got his cameraman. Scrappy's looking at his guy when he's getting his arm raised. He's not looking at the events pics and that, because they're all looking to see, where am I getting my social media from? Because that's what they're after, is their social media. So I think there's a little bit of detraction that goes on.
But could I make the argument that, if someone, I'll use the example of Scrappy, that if someone is going to, go that extra mile and take on the expense of bringing on their own person, I want to be careful how I ask this. I mean, shouldn't he?
And I think that's one of the things that's changed some.
Yeah. And does that not amplify the self-promotion that we were talking about for fighters?
And that's what it's turned into a lot with that promotion. Like, it's really amplifying it. Their focus isn't on the event, putting them on and supporting the event. It's on their promotion.
Can I say something that I observed the last couple of shows that I was at is the just sheer number of photographers. I think NFA had like literally 10.
I think the last show I went to, it wasn't the Armory one. It was down at, no, it was at the Armory. It wasn't out here. It was at the Armory. I think I counted 8.
8. Okay. How many is too many? Is there too many? Is there not enough?
So let's compare boxing and MMA for a second with it. MMA, you've got a cage. We don't have a catwalk. Like if I go shoot Invicta or I'm shooting Bellator, there's a catwalk going around that stretches it out 3 more feet, 6 foot in diameter, say. You've got that much more space. You can put 4, 5, 6 photographers around it, and they're down low. They're shooting on a catwalk. They're not blocking anybody's view of that. When you've got them walking around the outside blocking people's views who have paid top dollar for that upfront seat, now you got a detraction.
I agree 100%.
When you're boxing, they've got certain sections where the photographers shoot. They're expected to be down below the bottom rope and shoot up through it. If you're standing up, somebody will say something to you for it. But boxing gives you certain sections because they don't put as many people around the apron as we do, unless you got USA Boxing involved, and then you got 20 people.
No, you hit something on the nail of the head, and I didn't even realize it until you brought it up, but that you're absolutely correct. Where the more people that you have in the proximity to the action, it will inevitably take away from the viewership. And like these people are paying, I think, general admission now. I remember when I first started fighting, general admission at a Jim Jenkins show, I think it was like $25.
I think so too.
Something wrong now. Granted, the production wasn't the same. It was at the heart of St. Charles, so the venue was of a
still
certain
some of the
ilk.
best fights I've ever shot.
Brother, still some of the best shots I've ever seen. Like when Jimmy Donahue hit that one boy with the knee to the head when he took on the fight in place of Zach Freeman on short notice. There's so many memorable moments I have from a Jim Jenkins show. And by the way, I reached out to Jim Jenkins and I was like, hey, I know you're busy. I know you got your business and everything, but if you ever want to come down and talk about the old days, Jim, I don't know if Jim is, you and I both know a little bit about Jim Jenkins, so I don't know if Jim is just hesitant to talk about himself, his past, some of his mistakes, some of his successes, or if Jim truly feels like he's been forgotten by time. Because he is a bit of an individual who's a little bit more emotional.
Yeah.
He gave a lot to the MMA community, so he thought that he was... I want to be very careful how I say this. I like Jim Jenkins.
To me, he's the best matchmaker we've ever had in St. Louis.
Mike Rogers said the exact same thing. But the problem with being a businessman is you cannot mistake doing business with forming friendships.
Right.
And I think Jim did make friendships. I was one of those guys. I was Jim's friend. But I think when he was like down and out on his luck and the game had changed, I think he took that very personally. And I think that's part and parcel why he's maybe a little bit hesitant to have the conversation, which I think is actually, and you're older and wiser than I am, so please tell me.
I don't know about the wiser part, but I'm definitely a lot older.
I think that he's actually doing himself a disservice because I actually agree with you. I mean, I think he was one of the best matchmakers, one of the best promoters that St. Louis has ever seen. And no fault to Lance or Marlene or Rob Donaker or whoever. But when I started with Jim Jenkins. And I mean, when I've had guys, not pan out week of, he made sure I had a fight. I think his only downfall, Jimmy, if I can be honest with you, is everybody else was doing something else. No one fully committed to fighting. The fighters, the coaches, staff, everybody. Fighting was like the passion, but not the end all be all.
Right. And he
For
made
Jim, it was the end all be all. And then the juice was becoming no longer worth the squeeze. And I
Right.
felt like, and if you know Jim Jenkins and a little bit about his past, and that's why I want to have him on the podcast and kind of extrapolate that, you'd understand why. But I don't know. I truly put him, I say the Mount Rushmore of MMA is like Steve Berger, Mike Rogers. I feel like you have to put Jim Jenkins on there. 'Cause I know
he's got to be. Of
And
St. Louis.
I'm biased. I also put Jay D'Amato on there too, because without him, I wouldn't be here today. Without Jay D'Amato, you and I wouldn't be talking today.
Right.
So those are my 4 on the Mount Rushmore. And Jim is the only one who wasn't a coach. But Jim was the one. I mean, he got Sample the fights he needed. He got Fred Freeman the fights he needed. Sorry, not Fred Freeman. Forgive me, Fred. I love you, brother. Zach Freeman the fights he needed. Lance Benoist. Like, I mean, you talk about the guys that made it to like the up and coming show or worked with Strikeforce to get the guys on the up and coming show. I mean, Jim Jenkins was in a lot of ways the Jesse Finney before Jesse Finney.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Jim. I would love to talk to you. Maybe we'll make a clip out of
I
this.
secondly recommend that. I'd love to hear Jim. I mean, I feel bad because I worked a lot with Jim in that, and I didn't stay in touch. I very easily could have.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make a comment that's gonna make me sound like a douche. We're men.
No, you're right.
You know what
You're
I
spot
mean?
on, but
You're a grown ass man. You got your own responsibilities and
I
shit
know.
you got to handle, brother. I have friends where I talk to them once a year.
yeah.
You know
No,
what I
but I
mean?
mean, it is, though. But somebody I worked so closely with in that. I mean, Jim's the first matchmaker after I was shooting, because I started with Jason, and then I shot one of Marburger shows over there.
Jason was Craig's brother. Forgive me.
Yes. Jason was Jason Skelton. I shot one of Marburger shows. I started shooting with Jimmy Mann down in DeSoto, which we actually shot fights in a cave down there in Crystal City Caves.
Did you ever do any cage champs
Yeah,
with Pat
a
Smith?
couple.
Okay.
Not for Pat, but I actually was there for a
Gotcha.
couple.
Yeah, you've been around.
But Jenkins' first one, I want you to come shoot for me. So
Holds a special place in your heart.
it does. I mean, he always will.
Was it photography that got you into MMA, or was it MMA that got you into MMA?
I've always loved boxing.
Okay.
I was an MMA fan. And I told you you're going to laugh at this part. I'm flipping through one day, and I was looking for camera gear or something. And Jason's looking for ring car girls. I go, who shoots your fights? Nobody was. So I went and shot his fights.
That's how you started.
That's how I started. I responded to a ring car girl with who shoots your fights.
Huh. Humble beginnings. What year was that? 2004?
No.
Earlier?
9 or 10.
Wow. Okay. So a little bit later,
A
but
little bit later.
I was a high schooler at that time.
But it was
for
still
reference.
think about how young MMA was in St.
Dude.
Louis at that point.
When I was in high school, I didn't even know UFC existed. I only knew WEC.
Yeah.
Because Versus or TNT, what it was called before, it was called Versus. WEC was on channel, I think, like 46 or something like that. I didn't even know Spike TV was a thing
Right.
on channel 71. This is cable television. I'm aging myself. So, like, fuck you.
Fucking peanut galleries over
Right,
here
I know,
chuckling.
right? Fucking do your job.
I mean, the shoes
I
I,
love
got
you, I
on are
love
older than you.
I love you. Hey, man, I like. You want to know why I hired him more than anything? He's
he
just no. I'm gonna give you a compliment here. Of all the kids that wrestle for me or whatever, he shows the absolute like the sheer potential in like, dude. If he's like 40 years old, I can only imagine what he's gonna be. So like, more than anything, the reason I hired him wasn't even to give him a job or anything. It was to like introduce him to some people.
Yeah.
Because then when he's like 24, 25, like out in like the workforce or whatever, you never know. You never know, Jim. It's a
So
small fucking world.
add on to that, number one thing you'll learn in business is your network.
Yeah, your
And
network is your
stay in
net
touch
worth.
with your network is your net worth, and stay in touch with contacts.
Yeah. I
That's the
was.
best advice I can give to anybody coming up is expand your network and stay in touch with them and be genuine.
Did you said in a lot of ways that Bob Barton was a sort of mentor to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you were also, and I don't mean this as an insult. I mean this as an observation. You weren't like a young person when you and Bob first started meeting, right? You were what, in your late 30s, mid 30s,
Oh, fuck, I was later than that.
so early 40s.
Late 40s.
Okay, what does the word mentor mean to you?
Mentor to me is somebody who is willing to take their time and coach you in whatever endeavor you're on, to give you feedback around it and help guide you with it.
Do you think that any part of that also extends to the interpersonal relationship?
Oh, 100%.
Was Bob a mentor to you?
Oh, yeah.
So even though you were maybe not a young man, not an old man, but in the middle, you still found a mentor in a field.
Yeah.
How important was that for you? And not to say that Bob was your only mentor. Perhaps you've had mentors throughout your life. A mentor could be a father, it could be a friend, what have you. But how important was that mentorship throughout your life, or in this specific instance with Bob, to you?
I mean, it greatly. So I've shot photography all my life, and I was shooting my kids sports and that, and I shot all the sports with it. But I was starting to get a little more serious in it from the early 2000s and that, but still not really pushing it. But working with Bob and getting to know him, it completely transformed the way I looked at everything outside. Like going out and spending time in national parks. I mean, he got me to expand Jim Range as a person and being able to appreciate things that you take for granted.
What were some things that you were taking for granted?
I mean, wildlife. It's there. How many people go out and spend time in our national parks?
Very few.
We've got this vast open area that's absolutely beautiful. It's peaceful. It's an escape from reality, I call it. My time in the Perch was an escape from reality. But when I'm out there and I go on a trip, and I've not taken a true photography trip since Bob passed. I don't know why, but I haven't. And I'm in the works of making that happen again. But it just taught me to appreciate more than heads down, focus on the grind, and that there's more to life than just what am I going to do and what's my outcome of it. Appreciate it. Find the things you appreciate. Take advantage of what's around you.
I find that myself, if there's one critique I would give myself, it's that. It's that perhaps sometimes I'm too focused on I want to be careful how I say this. I'll just ask you because you're, older and wiser. So this is a young man asking an older man for some wisdom. Older than me, not older in general.
I'm older. I'm pushing retirement. I'm not quite there, but I'm getting there.
How do I explain to someone, suck it up, pussy, work your ass off, burn the candle on both ends, run that shit red, fucking go, because it's a dog-eat-dog world, and capitalism isn't a place for any bitches.
Right.
But then also, I do resonate with what you're saying about the value of, this is not everything. And it's in God we trust, not in the dollar we trust. Sometimes I feel like these things are easier said than done.
They are.
I can only speak for myself. It's my own anecdote that I'm preaching here. I resonate with that. It's not that you have to convince me that it's true. I do believe that it's true. It's just so hard to practice that preach, if that makes sense.
It is. I mean, at one point in my career, we were able to go 4 nines and a 4. Monday through Thursday, we worked 9 hours, and then Friday, we had only had to work for half a day. I still put in 10 hours plus every day, even Friday. I worked hard. I played harder. I mean, I'd be in the office by 7. I'd be out, leave the office at 8 o'clock, go party, and still be in the office by 7. I mean, I found that time, but that wasn't a life where I took time to go enjoy. It was almost like that party and getting away from it
Is there no part of you that enjoyed the work?
I loved my work. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I loved what I was doing. I took pride in what I was doing. I was damn good at it.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, I wasn't taking the time to get away, decompress, and let me be me and just forget about reality for a little bit. Refresh my batteries. I mean, what's it take to take a 4-day weekend? Or over a holiday weekend, a 4-day weekend where you're taking off one day? Disappear somewhere and just wander around.
Tell me if I sound fucked up. I don't want that.
I never did either for the longest time. Everything would be work.
I want, dude. I fucking love what I do.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like I love. The only aspect of this that I dislike is the time that it takes away from my daughter. But if I didn't have a daughter, I wouldn't have a life. I would just basically work and then.
I do think, and I was the same way. I do. There might come a point where it happens, but Jeremy doesn't. Craig and I, we all went to Hawaii in January. Jeremy wouldn't go. He can't step away from it. Jeremy does not know how to relax, and he'd say that himself.
Do you think he likes not relaxing?
I think he's conditioned himself to that
Is
because
that
he doesn't know how to
healthy
do
or
anything
unhealthy?
else. I think at some point I've learned you've got to have a step away too. Because you can't control everything that goes on in your, I'm going to say 9 to 5, even though you and I are not 9 to 5 people. You can't control everything that goes on during that time period. So there are things that build up that you've got to be able to get away from. That's just my take on it.
No, I'm interested. Forgive me. I'm going to kind of go down a rabbit hole. What do you think about like purpose and career? Do you think that a purpose can be a career? Do you think a career should ever be your purpose? Do you think that and by the way, I have to caveat this with for men. For women, I don't necessarily think that the calculus is the same. But this is something that I wrestle with as myself as a young man. I want to have more children, but I also understand the financial burden that will put on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as, you know, as a man, it is my job to take care of that responsibility. But then I think to myself, you know, I have a partner who wants to do vacations, who wants to do this, that, or the other. And I'm blessed to say that we're very first world problems in that, like, she wants to travel, she wants to get away, she wants to do all these things. And I'm like, hey, if you want to take baby, go. Like, you guys can go and have fun. But, like, I gotta get shit done. And her response usually is like, well, we want you there with us. And I feel like I can be many things, but I can't be all things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, and forgive me because this is your story, but I wanted to ask you.
No, I mean, it ties in. I mean, you're asking on mine. Mine used to be the same way.
When did that stop, or did it stop, or am I crazy?
No, because it's not uncommon. There's a lot of people that don't do it.
Okay.
But you know who Steve Gussetis is, right?
No.
His son Caden's a wrestler at Maryville now and that. Steve's fairly successful, and they travel all the time. Family's always gone. Bob was always figuring out ways to travel and go do things. Me, it took a point in my life that you ask career versus life. And I was very career. And I got caught up in a riff in 2004. And I'm like, I've been busting my ass for these guys, doing everything they need. And now what?
felt like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze?
Yeah, I mean, why am I committing everything, giving loyalty and being there, doing everything with it, and not necessarily it being a two-way street?
Mm, that's fair.
So at that point, I'm like, I'm still going to do my job. I can control what Jim Range does, the quality of work Jim Range does. I can't control what's on the other side of the fence. And this is one of the biggest lessons I've had in life is if I can't control something, and 95% of the time I'm really good at, if I can't control it, fuck it. Let it go. Because I can't control it. If I can change it or figure out a way to make it better, I do. If it's something that's completely out of my control, I let it go. And the work I'm going to do, if I build the right team around me, I can disappear and know that work's going to be done and not worry about it.
You're not the single point of failure.
Right.
Which I think
And
is
I
how
can
every
go
business
enjoy
should
things
be
I
run.
enjoy. Right. And disappearing for a day and a weekend doesn't impact everything I'm doing the other 4 days of that week. I may just have to bust my ass a little bit more to make sure I got everything ready to go. I mean, this year alone, I've got 3 full weeks planned of huge trips. One's out of the way now, so I got 2 more coming still.
Does your
Can't tell
wife join
listen,
you, or is this
yeah,
all
these are
isolation?
all together.
Gotcha.
Although the trip we're doing in the summer, we're going with a couple other families, and that it's our granddaughter's essentially graduation trip with a couple other soccer families, and heading to the Smokies. But I'm staying a couple extra days, so we're taking 2 cars because I'm gonna go play on the tail of the dragon for the rest of the weekend. They're coming back on Friday, and I'm gonna do nothing but
Would you
race
say
cars
that
for the
that is
weekend.
also a reflection of like you worked hard, so now you get to play hard? Like, I know that you're not retired yet, so like you're kind of in this weird moment in your life where you've done so much work to where now you're afforded some luxuries because of the career that you've had, where necessarily a 30-year-old version or a 40-year-old version would not necessarily have these options. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, I think you're spot on with it because when I was 30, I wasn't taking the time off. When I was 40, I wasn't taking the time off. It probably started when I hit 50, when it's like I figured out I can disappear, not impact what I'm doing. What good does it do for me to carry over 4 weeks of vacation a year? I got an FU bucket at the time I leave the company that they write me out a $100,000 check in vacation.
No.
I mean, that's the only thing I would get out of it by not taking them.
It's just something I ponder is I grew up poor, so the acquisition of money was very important to me. Not that I, by any means, I'm done with that aspect of my life. I'm not. But now I'm hitting this point where is it wrong? Is it wrong to want to do it all? Am I being too greedy?
No, I don't think you are. I will say one thing: family should come before everything else.
Yeah.
I look at it like this: in the office, I always had the mindset I spent more time with those people. That's the biggest relationship in your life.
Your office, your coworkers.
Your coworkers are, because it's different now that you're remote. I'm not in an office communicating 8 hours a day with the same group of people. I got somebody over the wall. My ex-work wife works for my wife now, works with my wife. And we would irritate the shit out of each other. I'd say something obnoxious or that, and all of a sudden I'd get over the top of the wall. She'd be flipping me double birds. I mean, we're great friends till to this day. Her and my wife are good friends in that. She works with my wife now. But that was your relationship. The people you work with, especially when you see them every day in and out, you're with those guys probably more waking hours than you are your family, not counting the weekend.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily correlate to like, you
No.
know, like-minded individuals.
No, it doesn't. But that relationship there can make or break your relationship at home.
Extrapolate.
If you bring the shit that comes home at work and you've got shitty relationships all day at work, you're miserable. It's hard to flip that switch and be happy when you come
Oh,
home.
you're not wrong. Yeah.
So work is to my mind, is your
If
biggest
you're unhappy
relationship.
there, you're going to be happy
You
everywhere.
can't do everything at home.
Do you think the vice versa is the same? If you're happy at work but you're unhappy at home, that carries over?
Yeah, people at work notice when when it's not,
When
because you
it's
can't
not.
flip that switch. Yeah, but where I was going with it is that can impact your personal life, but your friends and family, they are what drives you. What you're doing is for them. But at the same time, if you want to be everything, I firmly believe, and I've learned this the hard way over time, is you got to make the time to do what they want to.
Mm.
It's funny, my wife and I are very different, like when it comes to musical tastes. She jokes because I try all the time to talk her into going to concerts I want to go to because I spend a lot of time at concerts. And she's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to listen to that shit. It's nothing but noise. And she's like, I'm so glad you got your boyfriends to go with you. But I got my friends that from high school that we still go to concerts together. Some of us.
God bless.
But we still find time to make sure we do the things that are important to us.
I have a couple questions that I want to ask you before we go back into the topic that we were discussing. Forgive me. First, it comes with when you say, you've got friends from high school or college that you can still go to concerts or something with. Right now, in our day and age, if you pay any attention to the social ramifications of technological advances, societal changes, you would be led to believe that there is a male loneliness epidemic. And I want to preface it this with, I am, as an individual, do not come to me with your problems. It's very difficult for me to be empathetic because my constant is suck it up, pussy. You know what I mean? That's like where I go to is like, oh, your day was hard, suck it up, pussy. However, I don't want to lose my sympathy, and I want to be sympathetic with people and say, hey, I get it. Like, everybody's life is hard. We all go through different shit. Duly noted. Do you think that you, at the age that you're at, to have the connections that you've had for so long, do you think that that is the norm? And do you think that that is the norm for your generation? Do you think that previous generations or the generations that came after you necessarily have that same social environment? And do you think that that is important?
I don't necessarily think it's important. I think the people that you bring in your life that you stay close with are people that essentially become family to you. I've got two friends still from high school that I do stuff with regularly. And they were both welcome in my mom and dad's house all the time. My wife, on the other hand, has a couple friends. Her best friend is from 6th grade. Okay. And they talk daily, practically.
Still. God bless.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, ladies.
Me.
There's only so much to talk about.
No. I say the same thing. It's like, fuck, you spend more time talking to her, Shonda than you do me during the day. She goes, no, I don't.
You're so needy, Jimmy.
Exactly. But I give her shit about it. But they do. And but like, we'll go to dinner with the couples every now and then, or we'll go to concerts together, or they'll come over when we have poker night, they'll come to it. But it's not like we go do stuff regularly or talk regularly. We stay in touch and that. We're both audiophiles, so hey, I was over at the record store the other day. They got some new shit and it's pretty good. Go check it out. That's the way we communicate with each other. Typical guy stuff.
It's so crazy to me how you have relationships that you didn't grow out of. I have so many friends that I thought I would keep in touch with and stay close to. I have one friend, I'll give you an example. When Trump almost got assassinated, that South Carolina shooting, I had a buddy of mine who messaged me on Snapchat like, Pennsylvania? Yeah. What did I say? South Carolina? Sorry.
I knew what you meant.
Thank you. I had a buddy of mine that's like, damn, I'm pissed off that he missed. Meaning the shooter missed the shot. And I remember thinking to myself, the individual that I was so close with in high school, the individual that I was so close with in middle school, the individual that I knew was like sympathetic and empathetic and had seen me like lose my mother and like we cherished life together. Yeah. I don't know what happened in his life in that decade where I was pursuing my things, he was pursuing his things. We would intertwine every now and again, but definitely a relationship strained by time, but I always thought that no matter what, I'm very good at being the friend that like you call once a year. Hey, happy birthday. Hey, buddy, you want to get a dinner? You want to do this? And also, I'm very good at if you call me and you need me, I'm there for you. You know what I mean?
I'll bury the body.
I'm not there for the small talk. I'm just not your fucking guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need me, fucking call me. I got you. You know what I mean? And when he messaged me that, it had nothing to do about politics. It had everything to do with like, there's not a single person on this planet that I would say that about. Meaning, there's not like I wouldn't want for anybody to get their brains blown out
Right.
on national television. And my initial thought wasn't necessarily like, why would you say this and all that? My initial thought was, man, how much you've changed. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
So I guess what I'm intrigued about is how you're able to maintain these relationships over the vast expanse of time. Because I've lost friends that I've dripped, and we haven't like argued or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, dude, I didn't. All I texted him was like, I can't believe you would say that. Please look inward.
Yeah.
And like he's been trying to apologize and all these other things, but he's failing to see my message was like, look inward. Don't apologize to me. Try to understand why you would think that.
How could you have so much hatred?
Dude, leave Trump out of it. Make it non-political. You just said, damn, I wish this person would have got their brains blown out on television. Like, who says that?
Well,
That's not a healthy
is that
thought.
any different than the people that were all excited when Mangione killed?
That's a different breed of weird.
But I mean, but serious though, how do you get so excited about that? Yeah, you know what, healthcare needs to be reformed, and we don't need to go down this rabbit hole here. But to have that much and that you want to put that guy on a pedestal for it, come on, what's society come to? We can save that for another time.
Yeah. Forgive me because I'm trying to bring it back to the anecdote of what we were talking about with friendships. It's and males specifically with friends over the vast expanse of time. I'm 32 and I'm already starting to lose friends that I thought would be like, you know,
I mean,
that would test.
We went out of
stand
touch.
the test of
We
time.
went out of touch for when I got my first divorce. I pretty much separated myself from the world, and then we reconnected in that. And
Why? Because all the friends were connected to the first wife.
I did
You
lose a group. I lost a
chose?
group of friends for that, but I chose to kind of separate myself and stop being who Jimmy Range was at that point.
What does that mean? Forgive me. Extrapolate. Who was Jimmy Range, and why did you decide to stop being him?
To work hard, play harder.
Okay.
I mean,
Did you get a divorce because of your work-life
no,
balance?
we got.
Forgive me, I'm not trying to like.
No,
you know
we
what I
got a
mean?
divorce because we were just two very different people. Two
Gotcha.
people that probably never should have got married. It's one of those you realize beforehand, but you realize
You thought the
it so
marriage would
late.
save it?
And then
Any children?
I got two great boys out of it. Yeah.
Well, it was a blessing.
no, it is.
Blessing in all
But
things.
between that and when I switched jobs, Ned, it's like I kind of left that behind, and it's like I'm just going to refocus myself a little bit. I need to find and refine who I am at that point, and I just changed the mindset some.
Do you think that ever stops?
No,
there
but
ev-
that was a drastic refinement at that point, and I've refined myself continuously ever since. But yeah,
Forgive me for asking this because I find immense amount of joy being surrounded by older people than myself because I feel like I get so much out of their lived experience. And there's a question I want to ask you, and that is, I'm 32 now.
mm-hmm.
I don't feel any different from 22, like mentally. My faculties have always been there. There's been a shift in my lifestyle, the way I think and all that stuff. But for me, it's the day to day. So like I still feel like I'm Arion, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been progressing. And I think to myself, like, is this how it will always feel? When I'm 42, will I not feel different but be different? When I'm 52, will I not feel different but be different? For you, you've been through so much. You've experienced so much as a man, as a father. Did it ever stop? Are you still learning today? Do you feel like you could still have one of those epiphanous moments where life shifts? Or do you feel like you've kind of staked your claim in the sand and you're going to die on this hill and there's not much change to get you today? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but what I'm trying to ask is, like, I've experienced so much growth in 32 years. will I still experience that growth
Oh,
at
you
year
will.
64?
It may not be the same exponential growth, but you're going to continue to grow and learn. You're going to learn from your kids. You're going to learn from your wife.
What have you learned from your kids? What haven't you learned? Forgive me, by the way, if this wasn't the conversation you were on to have.
Oh, no. That I really feel sorry for my mother putting up with me.
Yeah.
No,
No, I feel the same thing, by the way. I have my daughter, and I'm like, dude, mom, you were, dad,
there
thank
are
you so
days-
much. I call my dad randomly and go, dude, just thank you. Because I was such a
I do
little
the same
shit.
with my mom. I'd call and go, I'm sorry. She goes, what for? I go, don't even fucking ask.
Yeah, I experienced
That
something.
you don't want to know.
Yeah. You were a
What
lot
did your
wiser
kids
than I
do?
thought.
Yeah. And, no, I mean, but like learning from them, you watch mistakes they made, and it's like, God, I wish I'd done this a little bit different as a dad. And at the same time, though, when you look at your kids and you think, God, they're a couple of ass clowns. And that's my favorite term for my kids. My mom hates when I say it, but they're my ass clowns. And the one, his inflection in his voice, everything when he's a smart, he looks just like my dad, but his inflection, everything's just like me. But you learn that you do a pretty good job. You might think you're really screwing up as a dad or a parent, and it's like, what could I have done better? And when they're growing up in high school and stuff, and I see some other kids, I'm like, fuck, my kids are pretty damn good. I mean,
Could have done worse.
yeah. I mean, it's like,
Could've
holy
done
shit,
worse.
I'm ready to kick their ass, but I look at some of the other shit going on. It's like, all right, I want to shut up.
Was it a pressure that you put on yourself?
Oh, I'm sure.
I think I do too.
I mean, I got pretty lucky in that, and both the boys are pretty good.
I think to myself, I feel like, my parents did it with such little means, but so much love. And now I have more means, but I don't want to dissipate that love. Sometimes I feel like I'm falling short with time and everything, and it kills me. I think to myself, like, me and my brother, we're crushing it. We're doing everything that our parents would have loved for us to do. If my mom was alive today, she'd be crying with happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it with no money, but a bunch of love.
We were the same way. Dad gave up promotions at work that would have made him go work second shift because he worked in a machine shop. He's like, no. I mean, he managed both our ball teams, all of our teams. My brother was going to switch leagues and go play in a different Corey league for a select team. My dad goes, are you going to be mad if I go coach? I go, no, go. I mean, that's the kind of dad I had. I was very fortunate with my parents.
Do you think the main variable is love? That if you have a life of struggle and poverty, but you're loved, then that is still the most important variable? Because I wrestle with this. I want to give my daughter the life I never had, but I still want her to have the things that I did have. Because I realized that I was rich in other aspects.
No, I definitely think that aspect of it. And I do look back, and when I said, like, I changed and made changes, I worked all hours of the night. I mean, I made sure I got home with my kids and that. But yeah, I do think it's a fact that I think society's changed with it. That now, I mean, I grew up in an 800 square foot house, my brother and I. And now, if you don't have a 2,500 square foot house, you feel like you don't have anything.
Can I be honest with you? I don't believe that.
I think there's too much drive towards it right now.
I think that social media and all this other bullshit has grossly exaggerated what success is, and that if you sit down and you talk with people, I don't think that's true.
See, I've seen the housing boom bust as an
Twice
adult.
in your life, three
Twice.
times in your life.
And
Hold on, brother. In 2 years, it might be four times.
No, it might be 4 times. But these people buying these houses that they feel like, and this is before social media, that I've got to have this big ass house. I can't live in an 800 square foot house like my mother and father did, and I grew up in. And hell, I know people that had 6 kids in a small ass house like that, but they couldn't afford to furnish their whole house.
They were house poor.
They were house poor, And that was way before social media because they were trying to look something to raise their class up. And I think society's done it on itself, and social media has just exemplified it and made it even worse.
I think you're not incorrect. I think you're absolutely right, but I think there's two variables in that. And forgive me if I go down a rabbit hole, but I think there's value in this. Number one, you're absolutely correct that the exacerbation of spectacle and the masks that we put on, because social media is an amplification of the positive. You're not posting on social media like, I can't make my car payment.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you look at social media and the trajectory of what is quote unquote popular, and then you also look, this is actually a fascinating conversation to have, forgive me. If you also look at the amount of debt per capita per US citizen, they're in correlation to each other.
Exactly.
So as social media has increased in popularity, so has the debt. Where I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe I am correct, $1.6 trillion in commercial debt, credit card debt, 1.6 trillion.
At 24%
Forgive
interest.
me, no. 1.6 trillion is the mortgage. Over 1 trillion in commercial debt. We have over $1 trillion, I believe, as well in student loan debt. So we've never had a more educated, more lonely, more
36 trillion commercial debt.
36 trillion in the U.S.
Yeah.
No way.
As of March.
No, that's incorrect.
That's
You can't have 36
that's-
trillion,
that's
brother. We're
36
40
trillion.
trillion.
Sorry.
That's
Are you looking at the U.S. government? Yeah, sorry. 36 trillion in commercial debt?
That's the government debt.
Yeah. 36, forgive me. I was like,
As I came out of my mouth, I'm like,
I love you, but no, not, dude, if we were 36 trillion. Jimmy, it's been fun, baby.
baby, we're broke.
Let's enjoy the rest of the
That's right.
ruin of the world. I guess what I'm trying to say is you're not wrong in your assertion that culture has changed, but I also think that it's directly correlated to the technology that we have at our fingertips to perceive
Oh, it is.
success. I always say this to people, and this is going to make me sound like a fucking douche.
59.8 billion.
598 billion of what, commercial debt?
59.8. 59,800,000,000.
No, that's not commercial debt.
Oh, 598. Okay.
I'm gonna
Google total debt, U.S. commercial. I want to know the commercial debt.
What I looked
It's not 598 billion. It's more than that. Credit card debt. Look up credit card debt. Sorry, Jimmy. I want to make sure that I'm correct on this one because I don't want anybody.
Who
in
would
the
have thought
comments.
we'd go down?
Oh, trust me. I got more rabbit holes for you. Pornhub. No, I'm just joking.
We'll call Craig up for that. We'll put him on speaker.
Well, I think the advanced.
18 trillion
No.
total consumer debt as of
Consumer debt in the world or the U.S.
the United States has reached 18 trillion.
Well, that's also going to
Consumer
consider
debt.
if you consider like
Credit card debt alone stood at 1 trillion.
1 trillion.
Okay.
That's what I want to know. 18 trillion of consumer debt is interesting. That's another figure that's astronomical. That's a bubble into itself.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little further? Forgive me. Because I'm trying to understand where that 18 trillion is. If 1 trillion is credit card debt, where's the 17 trillion? You got what, 1.6 trillion of student loans. You got 1.6 trillion of automobile. What is the housing bubble then? What, 14 trillion? Sorry. What I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to go into this conversation is you are not wrong in saying that society and the culture has changed. But I think it's like correlation and causation simultaneously.
Exactly.
I also see that in my friend group that life is becoming increasingly difficult. So like the cost of living is becoming more unsustainable for the average American. However, you have a lot of technology that amplifies the positive. So you're trying to kind of keep up with the Joneses, but on steroids.
Right.
So that was a term coined in post-World War II, during the baby boomer era, during when they were essentially World War II vets were, having kids. And it was a peacetime, and it was the middle class was the most powerful middle class that we've had in American history was post-World War II. And keeping up with the Joneses was a term coined for, he got the new Chevy, so the neighbor wanted to get the new Chevy, and you got a trampoline in the backyard, we got a trampoline in the backyard. It was just a way to kind of not even be above anybody, but to be on
Just
par.
stay status quo.
Exactly. Because no one wants
Because the
to.
kids want to fit in. You want your kids to fit in.
No one cares if they're at the top of the mountain, truthfully. They just don't want to be at the bottom.
Right.
Being in the middle feels safe. Oh, we're with the masses. The problem is that that idea of keeping up with the Joneses has just exploded, because it used to be that you kept in with your neighbors or your cul-de-sac or maybe even, the street. Now you're trying to keep up with everybody. Everybody.
You're
From
trying
high
to keep
school
with everybody
grads,
you see.
everybody you see. And here's the unsexy truth is everybody you see isn't operating in good faith. How many people are like, leveraging credit card debt to show a lifestyle that they don't necessarily really have? And I always say this whenever I'm going to sound like a douche, but I'm going to say it. Whenever someone tells me like, oh, I bought this, I bought that. You want to know what my first question is? Did you buy it or did you finance it?
Right.
These are two different things.
Two different things.
Do you own it or does the bank own it until you pay the bank? Because I can go with my credit score, my earnings, I can buy a house with 0% down up to like 1.5, 1.6 million. So like I can buy a house and exchange no dollars and make a very poor financial decision. And then I can make an Instagram post the next day. Look at my house. I own this house, but I don't, and I won't, and I shouldn't. And that's the thing that I think my generation is missing more than anything, is that we are cognizant of this. We're aware of this, yet we don't live this. And we know it like to be true because everyone says it so vehemently.
Yeah.
That like social media is not real, all this other stuff. Yet, if you ask people my age, like what is the main source of your stress, your discomfort, your unhappiness? Social media. So you're acknowledging that you know this is unreal while simultaneously allowing it to shape you, which is interesting to say the least. Forgive me, sir.
All right, so mortgage debt.
Mortgage debt.
Mortgage debt's at the biggest, 70%. Student loan debt,
70% of 16 trillion?
So 12. Student
That
loan
makes
debt,
sense.
No, that sounds like a bubble. $12 trillion of real estate debt
Look at all the new houses and everything.
But that's what makes it that's what makes it a bubble.
Right.
Forgive me. Let me extrapolate what I mean by that. The main source of people's net worth will be their home, the equity that they have therein. And I'm not telling anybody not to own a home. Please do. It's the easiest way to the middle class. However, when your homes are 10x your automobile, the average automobile is what? Now it's like what? 25? No, not the average, brother. Brother, you're showing your net worth. No, but like let's say it's like
you're 25 to 30.
Your 2025 Honda, 25K, let's say, right? So 25K. So what is the average home 250K? Maybe it is. I think it's a little less. Can you Google average home price in America? Forgive me. You're working overtime today, brother, but this is interesting to me because I'm trying to keep up with like, I don't want us to feel something. I want to know what it is that we're talking about.
Is that average car price or home price?
No, I want average home price in America because the coasts are going to, and that's the problem with average is like the skew of the coast is going to raise the Rust Belt. But median isn't necessarily the best price for this. It's okay, we're only live. Anyway.
Not too much.
You're fine, brother. To go back to what we're...
$400,000.
400? 400. That's a bubble. That's a bubble. I'm house shopping right now. I'm telling you right now, 400,000 is insane.
But tell me, when you look at new houses...
California.
I understand that, but because... let me explain it to you this way. Let me explain it to you in a different way. If you don't agree with anything that I'm saying, the cost of building a home is intrinsic to the cost of the goods that go into it plus labor. Fair. The cost of the land is a variable constituted by people. Fair. However, the delta between those two costs and what you buy a home, that's the bullshit. That's the bubble. So what does it cost to build? What does it cost to pay the people that are building it? What does it cost for the land that building material is being put in? And then give it like a 20% markup for the bank that's funding up the cost. Whatever the delta between all that cost is and the sale price, that's your bubble. And the problem with that is your estimates, like you have property taxes here in Missouri, right?
Mhm.
I do as well. When someone comes to do an estimate on your property, it's in conjunction with everybody else. And that estimate can change drastically depending on the market. So if you go in there and you say, hey, this single family or the duplex or the four family is worth this much because of the market, well, guess what? That's the property tax you're going to pay. But if the market goes to shit the very next year,
You're still paying it.
you're still paying that property tax.
Yeah, right now, a couple websites, but the average sale price of house sold in the United States is around 400,000.
Doesn't even make sense.
So if we
No
look at-
wonder people can't buy homes.
Well, it's exactly why I'm looking for a retirement land to buy locally that we not too far out because we like to entertain. So I can't go live out and
And, out.
But I mean, I looked at an acre and a half lot the other day, $250,000 just for the lot,
Unused land.
unused land. There's
$250K, and you're gonna have to like
and then I'm going to spend $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 on
just
a
to
house
make it ready. Yeah. That's
So I'm
insane.
$750,000, $800,000 in right there for it.
That's unsustainable. So can I
The land's crazy now.
can I tell you something that actually does scare me? During '08, it was largely relegated to the residential housing market.
Mhm.
So the '08 housing crisis happened because of, for no lack of a better term, essentially selling homes to people that could not afford them, and multiple people buying multiple homes, and people looking at homes as a appreciating asset, not necessarily to live in and to build equity, but to resell. So no different than how you look at a cryptocurrency or a stock or any market good that you can buy. I bought it for $1. I want to sell it for $2. The problem with '08 is people were doing that with homes. And that all works so long as the money can keep up with the physical demand. Once you've passed that equilibrium, the difference between equilibrium and where you're at, that is, quote unquote, the bubble. We were talking briefly about working from home or remote work. Have you seen what that has done to the commercial real estate market?
No.
Brother,
Oh yeah, it's
it is
It's in the
tanked.
pocket.
It's a straight line down. And my fear is we have a residential bubble right now because during COVID, I saw homes go from 200,000 to 250,000 to 300,000 in the course of 4 years.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says. That's not a market. That's a bubble. Okay, that's speculation, what you think the value of the home is. And a lot of this, like home lines of equity, mortgages, are with adjustable rates, which are the exact same.
that's what killed us before.
That's what killed us before, because what happens is they give you a teaser rate. I'm going to, forgive me, Jimmy, I'm going to try to explain this a little bit. You'll go to buy a home. It's separate from how you go to purchase a vehicle. When you buy a vehicle, you might be able to put some down, or maybe you don't put anything down, but they'll give you a fixed APR auto loan. They'll say a 5-year loan at 5%, let's just say, so that you know from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, up until year 5, when you pay off that
Right.
loan, what your essential interest is going to be. 5-year fixed. That's why they have that fixed. I saw, like, even First Community Credit Union is offering now a adjustable rate home line of equity, which is not as crazy as an adjustable rate mortgage, because an adjustable rate home line of equity is a loan on top of the home that you have. So you're not necessarily refinancing your home. So you're not taking the equity of your home and saying, hey, bank, you own my home again. What you're essentially saying is, I'm going to open up a line of credit, and that line of credit is tied to this tangible asset.
Yep.
And if I don't pay this, you will own a percentage of my home. This
Right.
is slightly different. Think about it as like adding a layer. But they're still doing that in conjunction with adjustable rate mortgages. And the adjustable rate mortgages are what got us into the housing crisis. You give somebody a teaser rate and say, hey, Jimmy, you make $100,000 a year. Good job, buddy. You're in the six-figure club. Well, this house is $800,000. I can't afford that. The principal alone will be so much. You're absolutely right. So what we'll do is we'll give you a 30-year adjustable rate mortgage. First of all, fun fact, you have a better chance. I'm not lying to you. Please Google this, Tony. You have a better chance of dying before you pay off your 30-year adjustable rate
But
mortgage.
here's the thing too, though. Who's the onus on with that? I know the banks are fucked up doing it, but you as an individual, it's going back to our status quo, keeping up with the Joneses. I'm going to go buy the $800,000 house instead of being reasonable and saying, I want to buy this $200,000 house.
I'll tell you who the onus was because of '08, the government. Because after the housing crisis, they could have broken up the banks. They could have added regulation. And then, by the way, this is coming from a finance guy who's like pretty conservative financially.
Oh, I'm conservative financially too, but I still put the onus on the people.
I put the onus on the government after '08. Before '08, I would have agreed with you. After '08, I put it with the government because you saw what this will happen. You saw that you needed to bail out because these banks were too big.
Yep.
You didn't bail out. Sorry, you bailed out the banks. You didn't break them up. You didn't offer different legislation, different regulations to prevent this from happening again. And if there's anything I know about history, it doesn't repeat itself, but it's cyclical.
It's cyclical, yep.
So it's like, are we really so shocked that we're in the same position again?
Not at all.
Am I saying that there is going to be another '08? Actually, I'm not. Because if you can grow your economy through whatever means you can, you should be fine. But what I am saying is the rate of a $400,000 home average, how do you tell a 28-year-old to go buy a fucking home? That's insane. Before we took a break, you were bringing up the fact that there could be a variable to this that I am missing.
Yeah.
Please elaborate, because I do agree.
I think it's a huge impact to it, and knowing several people who are looking at the point of how do I afford, you brought it up. How do I afford to buy a house? What do I do? Rental payments are stupid. What about all the companies, BlackRock and others, who are buying up all the property in the houses for rental properties? Now you lost the opportunity for somebody to buy a property. They're going in and they're escalating the rental prices.
Yes.
So how do these families ever afford to buy? It's a double dip. It's a double dip
I'll tell
because
you,
it impacts the price of housing, but it makes it that much harder for them to save to buy with the inflated rental prices.
So what we have is a genuine, and I love this fucking topic. Thank you, Jimmy. We have a genuine discussion about capitalism. So what you're saying is there are three major banks that are buying up residential properties and commercial properties in mass. That is State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock.
Yep.
You are absolutely correct. And if we know Finance 101, we know that price is a reflection of supply and demand. There is a set supply of houses because of redlining, because of gerrymandering, because of all these other things, because of homeowners associations, because of a lot of the reasons, why you can't develop, sustainable or affordable housing is because the people in those neighborhoods don't want you to.
Right.
Because they know that the second, let's say you have a street with 5 homes and you present a bill that says, hey, Vanguard wants to come in and they want to buy all the land and they want to produce affordable housing. Let's just say each house is $150,000. Every single person on that street will tell you to go fuck yourself because they don't want the equity in their home to depreciate.
Right.
So they're like, no, unless you build those homes for at least what my home is worth or more, preferably more, because if the house across the street from mine is worth $450K and I thought mine was worth $300K, guess what? Now mine's worth $370K.
Right.
Right? So I just made $70K on paper because you wanted to build a home in front of me. And this is how you get this problem. This is how you get unaffordable housing. And this is actually why I think that, let's extrapolate this before we move on to the next topic. I think that remote work is simultaneously the salvation of people and the detriment of company, because remote work has made commercial real estate so astronomically unpopular and diminish the value so much, while simultaneously it allows for people to just buy land and build your own fucking home, even out in the boonies, as long as you can get like Starlink or some sort of AT&T gigafiber through running lines, whatever you have to pay. You can now live wherever you want and work and get a good salary, even living out in the bumfuck nowhere, that it makes the overall need for a housing in cities like metropolitan areas less needed. Now, does that mean for everybody? No. I mean, you have hospitals, you have labor. There will be people that need to live in proximity.
Manufacturing plants, distribution.
But this helps everybody. If people that don't live in cities, then the people that do need to live in cities will find it more affordable to live in cities, because the demand for the houses in that city will go down. But here's the variable. It's fun to live in a city. You got 16 restaurants down the street from you. You got 4 bars. You got this, that, and the other.
You walk.
Yeah, and it's like you don't even have to own a car.
When I was in Buffalo, I put 5,000 miles on my car, most of that back and forth to St. Louis, because
if
I could walk. Imagine living in Soulard.
Yeah.
And having
Dude,
35 restaurants and 40 bars. within
downtown
walking distance.
Chicago, anywhere in New
Exactly.
York. If you own a car, you're an idiot.
And I could walk to work in Soulard.
I
If
agree.
I worked at the brewery and lived in Soulard, that's what I had in Buffalo when I was there.
This is kind of a foreign concept to St. Louisians because we're a commuter city.
Yeah.
Go to Chicago. I wouldn't own a car in Chicago. I wouldn't own a car in L.A. I wouldn't own a car in New York. I wouldn't need it.
I wouldn't either.
I would use public
LA, New
transport,
York,
or I would
one,
Uber,
I wouldn't live in
or
LA.
what have you. Or I would just work from fucking home and only live or only congregate in the areas
Right.
around me, and then Uber everywhere else I would need to go every now and then. Here's the unsustainability of these cost of living adjustments need to be need to be taken into consideration. I'll give you. I might be saying a little too much. I purchased a vehicle. My monthly car payment is $1,100 a month. My insurance for my car is $350 a month. Just to drive
Yeah.
is $1,450 a month. That's more than most people's rents. Now, did I buy an expensive car? Absolutely. Some of these variables are mine.
We like toys, though.
But let's say I didn't. Let's say I bought an average car, $300, and then $200 or $150 for insurance. You're talking about the average person that has to pay $450 to $500 to own a vehicle. It's this is kind of crazy when you put it in conjunction with rent or a mortgage, and then cost of living adjustments like sewer, water, trash, and then electricity, and then the more amenities you give to people to amplify the quality of life, the more expense you're then giving them.
Yep.
Cables, now all these streaming services, your phone, internet, all these other things. These are all cost of living.
Well, and hell, you nailed it with streaming services. I think I
That's
spend
the
more
new
now on
cable.
streaming
That's the new
service.
cable.
I spend more on streaming services than I did on cable before.
I used to go to Netflix because I didn't want to pay $50 a month for Spectrum or what was it called before? Charter. Now it's I got Netflix, I got Disney Plus, I got fucking Hulu, I got all this other shit, ESPN Plus. I'm basically spending the same amount of
YouTube
money.
TV.
YouTube TV, if you have it. Shout out YouTube TV. So big fan. Keep giving me money. No, but you're absolutely correct. I think the problem with salaries is that they are reactionary to the cost of living adjustments.
Yep.
So what happens is the cost of living goes up. So then workers are like, hey, I can't live. You need to increase my salary. And that's always that squirrel game. During COVID, there was the one rare time where the employee had more leverage than the employer because of scarcity of labor, what have you. But now it's getting back to that equilibrium of the employer having more power, which people are not going to like me saying this, but they should. The problem with a reactionary income adjustment in conjunction with a lot of these variables that we talked about lead to everything from investment banks buying up real estate to a cost of living that is becoming unsustainable to reactionary salaries to what have you, social media presence in everyday's life. It makes it so that people feel like having the same level of success as their predecessors is so astronomically difficult. And if you ask anybody my age what their main source of anxiety or stress or sadness is, it's not friends. It's not work. It's none of this shit. It's that they have a worse life than their parents. And I have a daughter. Jimmy, I'm going to be honest with you. My daughter, I want her to have not just a better life than me, an exponentially better life than me. I don't want her to
That's
be
a goal
worse
of all
than me.
parents. Or
Okay, then make it make sense.
holistically, it should be.
Then make it make sense. Why is it not societally so? Because a lot of my people my age blame the boomers. They blame older people for hoarding all this wealth and being successful and not leaving it to the next generation. So if what you say is true, which I believe is true, how do we arrive to this situation? Do you think that society has made for more lazy individuals that don't want to work as hard, which I think is a variable? I hear all this 30-hour work week shit and I laugh. I laugh.
It cracks me up too.
30 hours? Brother, welcome to 50
All
and
right,
everybody else.
Let's throw out something here, me being in the tech world. Mouse ticklers.
Making sure that you're staying online.
I'm
on
not
Teams.
online doing right, but my office thinks I'm working and I'm not.
Can I say something about that? if you get everything done that is requested of you, does it matter that you worked 48 hours?
Are you truly getting everything done you're expected of, or are you pushing stuff out, getting it done?
This is the problem. You're not fucking wrong, brother. For every one guy who's the overachiever, you're going to have 8 that achieve.
Because you're not working together, you don't see what's being done.
How much do people actually collaborate? Let's be honest.
Quite a bit, and depending on what work field you're in.
This is the first thing that you've said all night that I disagree with. I've had positions in information systems. I've had positions in finance, and I've had positions in data analytics. 10 years of my professional career. Data analytics, finance, then information systems. I collaborated the most in my first one, data analytics, because I was learning everything. Excel, Access, Visual Basic, Python, all the technical knowledge that I needed to do my job. Outside of that, it's been all social collaboration, the banter between one another, but not necessarily the correlation to like increase my work productivity or efficiency.
I can't tell you how many times we pull each other together, walk into a conference room and start whiteboarding out a solution of a problem we've got. How many times I walked...
That you're collectively working on,
yes,
or you in isolation are working on?
Collectively. Even in isolation, I've got a problem, I get somebody to go walk through it.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because I do that now, but over Teams.
It's not... People don't reach out as much. People sit there and struggle before they reach out, where before, if I'm sitting across the office, hey, Range, I got a question I need your help with.
I disagree and agree. I disagree because I can tell you in anecdote that that's not the case, but I also agree because I'm positive that just because I think, because of the way I work, that's not the case. I don't think that's everybody else. So I think there is some truth there.
There's a percentage of it that is.
I think there is some truth there.
Working with your business partners, how often do you get together with them to walk through things? You're not as efficient when you're on a Teams meeting versus sitting down and talking to somebody. Now,
well, let me ask you this. Do you think there's an oversaturation of meetings?
Oh, there's always been an oversaturation of meetings. When I was at Express Scripts, we used to joke, the average number of meetings on my calendar in a given week?
20.
Bullshit.
More?
I average 125 meetings on my calendar a week at a while.
You can't work.
I couldn't.
You're just basically on meetings.
You know what it taught me to do? Delegate to the people that were part of my team to help them grow.
Did you ever think about declining meetings?
I would just say which ones I couldn't go to. Or there were times I was critical on two. I'd literally be on a desk phone on one and a cell phone on the other, where I would get called out, hey, Range, you're on the wrong meeting. Make sure you go on mute on this one and unmute the other. Because they knew I was being tugged between two situations that I had the answers for.
I think that there's an oversaturation of meetings.
Oh, I do. There's things that could be handled differently. People don't know how to handle them differently. They don't want to learn how to handle them.
I think it's a reflection of corporate America. I think the majority, not the minority, the majority of roles in corporate America are useless. I can attest to this, to the work that I've done. There are very few needle movers and a lot of pencil pushers. But the problem is you need both because you need to show footprint. So like, insert your company of choice. Let's say they're a Fortune 500 company. If you were to dig into that company about the actual people that like help with product or operations or, you know, some sort of marketing initiative or some sort of research and development, or like the very few executives that actually make true meaningful decisions and not just middle management that babysit people. How many people are, let's say you have a company with 100,000 people, just like,
right.
How many people do you think in 100,000 actually touch the end user of the product, the service? Insert here.
2%.
I think so too, actually. I think between 2 and 5%.
To truly touch the end user.
I think everything else is like project management and all this. And I think it's a reflection of the delta of people. For every one person who's a go-getter, who doesn't need a manager, who doesn't need all that, you're going to have 10 people that need to be told what to do. Press button, pull cord, connect here.
But at the same time, you do need that level there that helps prioritize, drive, make sure you're on track. Because teams don't do that on their own. Make sure they're working on the right work.
No, I think the answer is capitalism. And I think what you don't do is you don't allow for a business to get that big. You don't have a 100,000 person business where 95,000 people don't do dick. What you have is a bunch of small businesses that each correlate to their own section of America, and they serve its purpose like it used to be, where people used to have pensions and not 401ks. I think that capitalism eroded for the oligopoly, the oligarchy. I think that's what happened.
Okay.
If you don't like Amazon and you live in rural America, you don't have any other choice, good luck. If you don't want to work at the Walmart and this is like the only option of major employment in your town, good luck. I think competition has always been the sauce of
Competition
America,
is the sauce of America. I agree with that.
but it's been eroded. And that's how you get insert big company where 95,000 people don't do shit. But then what they do is they carry a big stick. They can go to Congress, they can go to the state legislature and be like, we're going to open up a new firm here or a new warehouse here, and we're going to employ 20,000 people. Shut the fuck up. Don't tax us.
That's what I love about whiskey.
What
These
about
small
it?
whiskey brands can still come out and find their footprint in their niche and have some fun.
It's interesting that works the way the distilleries work because there are well, hold up though, because I've heard of the Kentucky Mile where you have 12 distilleries that make a majority of the whiskey on the market.
They make a majority, but how many different small ones do you do? The old Crow distillery down there is Glens Creek now. When the boys and I went down for our bachelor party in 2020, we went and visited them. And it's not the pristine distillery it used to be.
Really?
But that one right there now, at the time you went, OCD number 5, which I've got a bottle, Jeremy's got a bottle, I've still got my bottle from when we were there. It's good. It's damn good. They've got themselves that they're positioning distributorships throughout the country now. So the smaller ones can make a footprint. Jeremy did it with Uppercut. I mean, it's a source whiskey, but he still did it.
Jeremy did it through entrepreneurship with Uppercut in conjunction with distilleries.
Well, he leveraged the distillery for it. A lot of distillery. Here's the problem with open up a distillery.
But before we even talk about that, though, surely you can understand that like a Jeremy Johnson, like an entrepreneur, that is the minority of the populace of America.
It is.
The majority of people want to be the laborers, not the
Which is
employer.
what allows capitalism to get to the point it has, because you don't have the people starting up and getting there. I don't begrudge anybody that's made it. No matter how big or small they are, you've made it, you've earned it, because you're the one that gave your blood, sweat, and tears for it, like you said. It's not a 40-hour work week. It's a 120-hour work week to get to the top, to do it. You're risking everything in your life to get there. You get there, I've got no problem when all of a sudden you're worth $100 billion, because that value you've got isn't a salary. It's the value of the company you've built and helped build to get there, the growth of it. And guess what? As an investor, my 401ks, all my accounts, I want those growths. We got spoiled in the 80s when we started hitting 20-25% returns on all the stocks.
Yeah, you guys got
Now but that's expected now, which is part of the
20-25%? No fucking way.
No, but the continuous growth and expansion.
Well, that's expected because, forgive me, it's not expected of the market. It's expected of society. We should be growing. And this is like
But we put unrealistic expectations on things once you hit a certain point in the size of an organization, what they can do.
I don't
As a shareholder,
disagree.
we want this when realistic it's here.
So I will say that as a society, we should have consistent growth. Agreed. But as a company in an industry that is unsustainable, also agreed. You're not wrong. I do agree with that.
Because guess what? At some point, I want to retire. We're down right now.
What does that mean? What does that mean for you though? Retirement? Stop working?
Oh, I'll never stop working entirely. Okay. But at the point that I don't want to put in a 40, 50-hour work week as a consultant and continue doing
hours?
what I'm doing.
10 hours? Whatever it looks like?
Whatever fits. I mean, I joke when I transitioned to what I'm doing now and hung out the shingle again that I'm going to treat it as semi-retirement. Do I work 9 months, take 3 months off? Do I work 6 months, take 6 off? We're going to see how it goes. My wife's 8 years younger than me. So I'm early 60s. 63. So 4 years, I plan on probably cutting back a fair amount. 7 years, majority of the way. Because at 70, I can say, okay, fine, I want to collect full Social Security.
Yeah.
But she's 8 years younger, so that would put her at 62. Okay, she can start collecting then if she wanted to, although there's a considerable dip in it. But if we've got everything put into play right, hey, so am I upset the way things are right now? With the bullshit going on? Yeah. With the market being down? No, because guess what? Everything I've got invested, I'm reinvesting cheaper.
God, I'm glad you said that.
I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it right now. I'm reinvested cheaper. Now, my buddies who are close at retirement and that, I feel because they're taking a hit. But if
Have they though?
People are taking huge hits, and when you're at a point, you hit a certain age, you've got to take.
But it's only the realization if you're buying or selling at that
But
point.
at a certain point, age, you have to take mandatory distributions percentage-wise.
Well, this is why I fundamentally don't agree with the 401k. I think that the
But
pension
that's where you
system
get
was
fucked
completely
is
better.
the people that are having to draw on it withdraw so much.
Can I say something? Do you know how many people look at me sideways when I tell them I don't have a 401k? I've had my own private brokerage account created ever since I was 16 years old. My brother helped me create it when I bought Nextel stock at 18 cents a share back in 2009. I had to get an adult to co-sign with me because I was a minor. But I had my own bank account and I was making my own money. So like my brother was basically my co-sign to my own brokerage account. That was 16 years ago.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question with that.
Go ahead.
Does the company you work for right now, and pardon me for not remembering who it is, do they match a 401k contribution?
Yes.
And you're not putting into it?
No.
You're losing free money?
No.
Yes, you are.
Because my money is then tied to that account unless if I want to take it away, then I'm penalized that match percentage.
Okay.
So then I get my money back.
But you're doubling, and is that, say, 6% you put away and doubling it and making it a 12% because they're going to match it dollar for dollar or something?
If I was a passive investor, I would agree with you.
Even as an aggressive investor?
No,
why
because
not?
I'll tell you what I did in 2020 and what I did 3 days ago. In 2020, before the March crash, because I saw the linings in the market, when the government is talking about mandatory, don't work and basically halting the economy, I realized what was going to happen. I liquidated my entire portfolio. I paid like $280,000 in capital gains tax in 1 year. And then what did I do the very next month? And someone look at this. Look at, I believe it was April or May of 2020. Before the financial crash, I sold everything. And then literally the next month, I bought everything that I sold at a 30% discount. I made more money in 6 months than I would have made from an employer matching my 401k for the next 20 years. So you're not wrong for the average person. For the average investor who's not aggressive, who's not looking at the market and all these other things, you're absolutely correct. But then I would also make the argument that the pension was better in every single way outside of that. Because the pension would allow that you sat there and worked and worked in tandem in conjunction with an employer, and you took care of them, they took care of you. There was like a symbiotic relationship between the employer and the employee. The problem with corporate America now is the 401k, is the fact that you can jump around for a 5K benefit. Let me forgive me, and then I'll. So to your point, that 2020 example I give you is one of 5 in the last 10 years that I've done where I've made substantial gains because I was able to liquidate, paid the capital gains. I paid Uncle Sam. I did something. I liquidated a lot of fucking money 2 weeks ago because I knew that the conversations of tariffs would result in speculative sell-offs. The fact that NVIDIA is selling for anything less than $100 at any point in time right now, for anybody who's in the know of tech, is laughable to me.
Right.
That stock should be $140 a share, easy, with the Blackwell chips that they have going on, with the segregation of the markets, with TMNC coming to Arizona in America with a $100 billion investment. The fact that that stock is not like at least $140 a share is proof to me that people are fucking stupid.
So people are reactionary. It's
duly noted.
But
if I have,
can tie into that. I know what you're saying.
but if I can move my money, I can make it. I can take advantage of stupidity, and I have. And I have. Have I always gotten it right? Have I always bought at the valleys, sold at the peaks? Absolutely not. You're absolutely correct. But I can tell you this right now. The delta between had I done a 401k exclusively, or whether I took every single dollar of liquid cash that I had and I managed it myself actively, I would not have the suits. I would not have my Rolex. I would not have my car. I would not have my wife. I would not have the life that I have now.
I get it.
I would not.
You're the exception to the norm.
No, but I disagree with that because the problem with that notion is that people think that there's exceptions and not. Anybody can do what I'm doing. I have a group chat. I have like 5 different group chats with people where I'm just literally talking about stocks with my friends and all that. This is not like a secret. Anybody can do this. The problem is the majority of people would. This is what I hate, and I don't want to sound like an elitist when I say this. The majority of people would rather do a $20 parlay on a UFC fight card instead of buy, insert. I think you could buy Intel for sub $20 right now.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want to buy. There are people that would rather gamble their money or be stupid with their money or do whatever the fuck what they want with their money or put their money in a 401k and say someone else has it. You want to know what the propagation of Wall Street has been? It's been a direct correlation from the recession of pensions and the increase in 401ks. Wall Street lives off the backbone of the everyday American. Don't let anybody ever tell you differently.
I don't disagree with that. Banks
I don't like that shit. Wall Street only exists because of the 401k. Google total market cap of 401ks. Prove me wrong. I hate this shit because these Wall Street motherfuckers think that they're so wise and all this other shit. When in reality, the average American is just so busy staying afloat, trying to survive. And they think that their employer matches 5%, that this somehow gives them anything. You had it better in your previous generation through pensions. You're better off investing in your own money.
My generation didn't have the pensions for the most part, unless you worked for a city or county government. My dad's era is the one that had pensions in that. Yeah, so we're going back a generation.
You had a stronger union footprint as well. So between the pension programs with various employment and union contracting, it was just different times. You could legitimately live a middle-class life and have like the woman maybe work part-time, stay at home, rear the children. It was a completely different life. I do not look at, I'm a student of history and I'm a student of U.S. history because your history is the most fascinating. Mm-hmm. Not ancient history, not Asian history, not Roman history. U.S. history is the most fascinating. And your way of life.
We're seeing the rise and we're seeing the fall at the same time.
Well, post-World War II America was the strongest thing that has ever existed ever. Mm-hmm. And I just worry that people forget that. And we're learning that in part and parcel now with a lot of the initiatives that are being done. And I would argue that if anybody wants to debate me on the merits of the financial literacy that I'm propagating right now, I will welcome anybody on here to discuss with me how the 401k is in any way better than a pension program or how $42 trillion in 401k. $42 trillion in 401ks. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. Wall Street is not propagated on their money, on seed investment. They're propagated on your money, on your value, on your wealth, because you can only finance productive capabilities. They don't produce anything.
Wall Street never has.
No, Wall Street never has.
All they've ever been is a trading monopoly.
And I'm not trying to sound anti-finance. I got a finance degree. I love the banks. I love loaning money and allowing someone who doesn't have money but has a dream and a backbone and work ethic, hey, here's a $100,000 small business loan. We're going to take that risk. And if you succeed, we want a cut of that. Right. We want that interest. But if you fail, then we'll out that money with you. I think that there is a place for banks. I think there's a place for the financial institution. And I don't necessarily think that, to your point, everybody can actively, invest in their own portfolio. Some people are just not built that way.
Your generation has a lot better tools available for you than we ever did in my generation.
It's never been easier to invest.
Everything is at your hands. You can research everything now. Hell, the online trading apps give you all the research you need.
Yeah. You don't even have to do that. You can follow Nancy Pelosi's stock tracker on Twitter and just fucking buy whatever the insider traders are buying. Here's the thing. I guess what I'm
don't even get me down that rabbit hole.
Well, listen, dude. There will always be insider trading.
Well, there's going to be.
There's always going to be. doesn't need to be as prolific as it is right now.
The difference is when the rabbit hole of Pelosi and company and our politicians, they're influencing. They're not necessarily just having knowledge.
Yeah.
They're
Passing legislation.
influencing. That's different.
What if I told you I'm okay with all of that as long as the American people benefit? I think that if Congress wants to if you have AOC, who's been 6 years in Congress, who has a net worth now of $18 million, but her annual salary is $172K.
She argues that she's not worth that too. So
whatever. I don't care. Let's say it's $10 million.
But the whole thing is that this is the problem I've got with them is they all deny they've done anything behind the scenes.
Can I be honest with you? I don't care if you do. Make as much money as you fucking want.
But let me get behind the scenes too.
But let the American people benefit. We have a problem because the delta between top and bottom has never been more vast. If you're telling me that every congressman is insider trading and lobbying firms are passing whatever legislation they want, but every American's quality of life is getting better, you wouldn't hear any bitching. I wouldn't say anything. A rising tide lifts all ships. But we're not hearing that. What we're hearing is AOC in 6 years can amass $10 million with $172K annual salary,
right.
But people that are making $100K in St. Louis have to budget. It doesn't make sense. And all I'm saying is I am financially conservative, socially liberal. What I'm saying is you can do it all. You can make your money, but also help everybody else. They're not mutually exclusive. You can pass legislation that'll increase portfolio value and also increase Main Street value. They're not decoupled. It's America. Remember your patriotism.
But that's a problem, one, we've got with government
Sorry,
in
I'm
general.
ranting, brother.
No, our representatives are not there for the people. How disconnected are some of our representatives?
This is where I blame the people. This is where I blame the people.
We could, again, back
You
to
can
my
vote
point
them out
earlier,
every 2, 4, 6
and
years.
we don't, though.
Well, that's why I blame the people.
Right.
They represent you. And if you don't like the way they represent you, fucking vote them out. My senators are Josh Hawley, other guy. I don't really give a shit who other guy is. I like Josh Hawley. I'll vote for Josh Hawley until I no longer want to vote for Josh Hawley as a U.S. senator. I also want to say this because I don't want to make it seem like I'm like belittling the average American. I also, with the advancements of technology, saying that it's never been easier to invest, I will also say that it's never been harder to be in the know because so many people are being bombarded with information and they're so worried about just struggling and trying to survive that they're not necessarily worried about thriving. And I think that with grifting and algorithms and all this other shit, it's never been more difficult to be truly learned, and it's never been more easy to be propagated.
Well, I agree because, one, what's right, what's wrong, and what you're seeing. Where is your source of truth? And on top of it is, how do you handle that and leverage it? Because we don't teach kids nowadays life skills and how to react and how to deal with things.
Did we ever? I never had classes about personal finance, and I graduated in 2011. That's when I graduated high school. It wasn't until I went to university where I actually studied finance.
I learned finance in college too, and it was required.
Yeah, I mean, in high school basically felt like adult daycare or adolescent daycare. I had great teachers. I learned a couple
I was
of things.
fortunate that I had a lot of.
But if you're talking about like general curriculum,
see, I didn't have general curriculum classes, so.
What did you have? When you went to high school, what was it like?
I was all college prep and other courses around that. So
I think we still have AP classes and all these other things. So perhaps I was a dumb kid.
No, I'm just saying though that we had more courses around a little bit life centered. Nobody teaches you finance and that, but I think it was more.
Well, let me ask you this: if our trajectory of technological advancement is exponentially growth, yet education seems to be a linear line, does that make sense?
No, and I had this conversation with a good friend of mine a couple weeks ago where he thinks technology is great. Everybody's doing everything with it. The thing is, people use technology to do an answer for them, they don't really understand the basics behind it. And
I
is there a
agree.
plus or a negative to that? I think it's a negative because if I don't understand the basis for it, what good's having the knowledge and the answer?
Okay, let me give you an argument though. Let's say now at your fingertips you are allowed the ability to do vastly more things than you ever were able to do. Does your ability to coherently understand all the actions that you're taking matter when the benefit to your life are so great? With the advancements in technology, we were afforded the automobile. And all these people that were equestrians had no idea about auto mechanics, yet they benefited from the automobile, the Model T from Ford. It's like you cannot know how something works and still benefit from them. Do you,
Okay.
you might not be the right person to ask for this because you're in IT as well. But the vast majority of people don't know how the semiconductors in their iPhone works.
They don't have to know that.
But they still
They
benefit from
benefit
that.
from it.
So it,
But let me ask you this and build on that. Technology has gotten to the point. How many people actually pay attention when they're driving a car anymore? My car tells me to remind me, check in the back seat to make sure you haven't left your child behind.
yeah, the weight
It beeps.
sensor. Yeah.
It tells me the passenger seatbelt's not on because my dog's sitting there. It beeps at me in my mirrors because we're not conscientious of things anymore because technology's telling us where we're fucking up. We don't have to worry about it.
Do you think
We're dumbifying society.
DJ Khaled quote here, are we suffering from success?
Yes.
Is that a bad thing? Is that not
At
the
some
natural
point it's going to
trajectory?
be. It's not what you want.
What do you want?
People need to be, we don't hold people accountable anymore.
I agree with that.
Don't talk on your cell phone while you're driving, but you got your self-driving car that you don't have to steer the car while you're driving. That you can just let it drive for you. You can get in a Tesla Uber that's going to drive you where you want to go.
Chris Craig just bought a Model 3 Performance. It drove him to Tennessee the whole way through. He said he put it on autopilot and he was good to go. He didn't drive for like the 6-hour drive or whatever. I look at it both ways.
I do too, but the problem is, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think the problem is that the advancements of technology have happened before the education of the populace? Meaning, we still have the curriculum that teaches us like, basic math or whatever when we have tools that will answer that for us. I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way. Is long division as important when you have Chat GPT? Is it? Or is understanding how to use Chat GPT now more important?
ChatGPT is only as smart as what it's told to do.
But the general populace, we're now living in an age where the 1% uphold or pull up the 99%. And I actually think that that's how it's always been. It's just never been more transparent than today. So like if you look at human history from the Roman Empire onward, because like when civilization really started, you've talked about, I don't want to say that it was the aristocracy and the oligarchy, but it was the 1% of thinkers, true thinkers, mathematicians, scientists, chemists, whatever, that propelled humanity with research and development in the real time, and then subsequently increased the quality of life of everybody else. Then, through secondary knowledge, we are aware of the findings, but we don't really understand it. I understand what H2O is and how the molecules make water. I don't know how to strip hydrogen from oxygen. Do you?
I used to.
Yeah. Okay. So, but like, you know what I mean? So like,
It's been 40 years since I've had it, 45 years since I've had to do it.
We have simultaneously never been, as a society, more educated and less useless. Sorry, more useless.
No, I agree with that.
Because if you eliminate society, none of us can thrive. But half of us don't know how to change a tire, let alone start a fire. But then I would say, if society ever got to the point where you needed to learn how to build a fire, you're fucked anyway. Right? It's like, if we get to the point where none of this stuff works, and like, let's say there's like a nuclear holocaust or whatever.
Oh yeah,
we're
we get an
fucked
EMP
anyway.
drop, this country's fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? The quality of life increase versus this is the conundrum of collapse. It's bigger than me. All I know is.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, you know. Go ahead.
All I know is life is better for me than it was for my parents. And as long as that trajectory stands, then the social contract we have with one another as humans, from not eating each other and resorting to our basic animal instincts, can also stand. The second that's not the case, and this is where I was getting at with like the trajectory of America and Americans and quality of life is, as long as we all kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel, as long as we all kind of agree, even if it's subconsciously that, you know, my children's life can be better than mine, then we can all kind of agree on this social contract with one another that like, hey, I'm not going to kill you and take your shit because I can just make my own shit, right? The second that no longer seems to be the case through whatever act, that's when society collapses. That's when society collapses.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, we have a generation of people that Luigi Mangione, executing that CEO of United Healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
when the social fabric of America starts to erode to where people feel like they have a lesser life than their predecessors, you start having people that make Luigi a martyr,
Right.
that uphold him to this godlike status
That's
of
coming up
the
right now.
Joker incarnate, so to speak. So, like when we were talking about that earlier, this is it. Is it so? I think it's unhealthy, but am I surprised? No.
I've said for 20 plus years, every great empire collapses. It's happened through history. And America being the greatest empire of the 19th, 20th century is probably starting to see that on the horizon.
I could not disagree more. I agree with empires rising and falling. I do agree with that part. I could not disagree more with where America stands today. I think that we're on the precipice of greatness.
I hope I'm wrong with it,
Yeah.
but we have so much division. We're so far behind with other countries. When I look at our lower level educations, our math and science and all of that, the fact of the United States being a powerhouse and continuing to be the force behind everything, yeah, capitalism, we've got some of the largest companies in the world. But when we look at some of these other countries, what they're developing, what they're doing, where they're putting their investments in that, and I look at the focus they've got on education that with their students and everything compared to here,
When you talk about countries, you mean China?
I'm talking India, China. I mean, when you look at their focus on the education system and what they're doing,
But surely you understand population density.
no, I do.
And that,
But at the same time, we've got the advantage capitalism. We drive, we grow.
yeah, but we don't have 1 billion people.
We don't.
That helps us immensely. You want to know what no one will say, but I will say? What our Achilles heel is, but also one of our strengths? Diversity. Diversity is one of our Achilles heel and strengths. Diversity allows us to infight more than any other country. And our form of government, which is the greatest thing ever created by man, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the amendments thereafter, it's the greatest thing that man has ever created, is that form of government, self-governance. It allows for infighting. It allows for all this stuff, the polarization and all these things that we're feeling. But you know what it also allows for? Growth. And you can say whatever you want about India and China and Russia, Mexico, wherever we get our labor sources from. If you were to go to any of those countries and ask them where they would want to live, I bet you that answer would shock you.
Oh, they all do want to. They all want to live in the United States. I mean, I see it. I work regularly with people from international people in that, and it is. And I see the way their governments are running that and working with them and the things they have to deal with that we don't have to deal with. But my concern comes from the fact of our educational basis in the key things that are going to drive the growth over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years being technology driven.
Yeah, but
Where's that gonna
we're
come
home
from?
of the Mag 7 though. So even while I acknowledge the fear,
You've got to have a shift in education, though. And if all of a sudden all technologies come from other places because of the growth,
yeah, but you got the H-1B, you have the American dream, you have the ability in America to do what no other country can do, and that's brain drain. Everyone wants to live here. So
I get that.
honestly, I hate to say it this way. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't give a fuck. Educate your people. They want to live here anyway. I think that what we need to do is fundamentally change the H-1B and allow for full citizenship. If you're smart enough to do all the jobs that we say that Americans can't do, I don't want to tie your citizenship to I don't want to tie your path to citizenship to your employer.
okay, I'm going to take that backwards now to conversation earlier, our separation of people in this country. Now then, we're raising Americans who don't have the educational background, the skill sets, etc.
That delta.
Now that delta is even worse than it
because
is now. Now you're taking all the wealth and you've got to support them.
You're
Yes.
outsourcing the inability to hire within America to other countries. And here's my response to that: bring back manufacturing.
Can't afford to.
Disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. Because the outsourcing of manufacturing stemmed from the increase in federal taxation. U.S. history, look it up. While the federal taxation levels increased, while you take more money out of the populace internally, they are forced to cut corners. They are forced to find the same profitability from yesteryear outside. The problem with outsourcing manufacturing and labor is you'll eventually get to the point where you're beholden to your manufacturing capabilities. That's what we're finding ourselves.
Well, and the same with raising the salaries up to compete with that.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's better, income tax or tariffs? Broadly speaking, is it better to take money from your populace or to take money from everybody else who's trying?
Everybody else who's trying.
Why? Why would you say that? Like, out of curiosity, what train of thought leads you to think take money from other people? Out of curiosity.
Outside of
through tariffs. Why is that better?
Because if we're going to take, so it's impacting us both either way. But they're going in and they're going in at $1 an hour labor. It's going to cost $6 here. It's going to cost us $25 to build it. I'm going to use a hammer. It's not a $25 hammer. I'm going to say it's $25 no matter where it comes from when it hits the market. Our labor to get there and our taxes versus getting it built elsewhere with the tariffs to bring it up to $25. Because if we don't add those tariffs, then it's going to be developed at $12. And that's what it's going to cost us.
Let me delve into that, and you can agree or disagree, and I'd like to hear it why. High level, why is it better to take money from tariffs versus income? If you're outsourcing the sources of labor, okay, to manufacture the goods so that you can purchase them for cheaper, the tariffs don't make sense because you're going to hurt all the industrial markets. So then you're going to have to pull the value that the government's going to need to run itself from the people, which only then makes you more beholden on cheap labor. The only reason you can have an increasing income tax is because the services and the products that you purchase are cheaper. But if you were to inverse that, if you were to say, I'm not going to take your money, Jimmy Range. You make $150K a year. I'm going to keep all your money, $150K a year. But your eggs are going to go from $3 to $5. Your gas is going to go from $3 a gallon to $4 a gallon, what have you, okay? The increase of cost of living is going to grow. Why is that necessarily good or bad? Why is that the difference, or why I say that we should do tariffs? Because then you're putting the onus on payment to other people for that good, and it allows for American companies to come in and subvert those tariffs. Then I see that eggs are $5 a dozen, and I can say, hey, if I make my own chicken farm locally here in America, in Kentucky or Arizona or wherever the fuck I want to make it, I could sell eggs for $3 a gallon. Or $3 a gallon, sorry. $3 a dozen, okay? You can do the same thing for the multitude of products and services. The issue that we as Americans see is like unattainable is like, well, how can we, compete with $1 an hour labor source? We can't.
We can't, which is why where my point was with the tariff. If If I put that tariff and make it 25 to 25 versus 12 to 25, guess what? We're not going to outsource any longer. We're going to pay the salary here and the taxes. And now
Through
we're going to
income.
create a job through it
Yes.
versus it. But if right now, if it's $12 overseas, $25 here, we're going to fucking outsource it.
I agree.
So if we put the tariff on, that's going to flip it back.
Correct.
That's where I was going with it.
You're absolutely correct then. Forgive me.
I didn't explain it well the first time.
No, but it needs to be in conjunction with, and I said this before on my Instagram story, but it needs to be in conjunction with, if you're going to tariff other countries, you need to eliminate the income tax, because then you're going to essentially, if you introduce a tariff, you're going to increase the cost of goods, and you're not going to make it sustainable for people within this country to actually invest, because they're going to be hit on both the income side and the spending side. They're going to be too strapped for cash.
Right.
You're going to implode your country is what you're going to do. But if you introduce tariffs, accompany that with income leniency. I don't even know what the word would describe for it. Eliminate the income tax. You didn't have it until a certain time anyway, and it was the richest part of your history. Back when Hamilton said, "Hey, you guys want to take control of our, not control, but you want to take advantage of our consumptive capabilities? Okay, you're gonna have to fucking pay for it." And that's in a long way, because I want to get back to that discussion about education and labor. America wins because of its form of government, more so than any other. Communism hasn't worked. Oligarchy, dictatorship, none of these things
Socialism
work.
doesn't.
Socialism doesn't work. Why? Because it doesn't allow for the individual to truly attain the best version of themselves. And so long as you cap the individual, you're going to subvert yourself as a nation. Now, allowing for certain people to extend themselves to the highest heights will automatically create a delta. And what I would say to you with your, it was a very good question of saying, hey, if we're going to outsource the brain drain to the people that can do it and we're not going to hire the people that can, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You mitigate that to a certain number. Okay? So only a certain number of H-1Bs. You don't just allow for everybody.
Right.
One. Number two, you put an onus on education in our people. And number three, you realize what your strengths are. Your strengths are not manufacturing. They never have been. They never will be again. Well, they were. They haven't been for a while.
We haven't been in 50
They haven't
years.
been for a while. But also, I let me ask a general question, okay? Do you want to be the person on the conveyor belt putting part A with part B? Do you want to do it?
I don't.
I don't either. Is that a career? Do you find value in that?
Do I personally? There's value, not value to me as a
Fair.
person. There is value there. Here's where the problem comes in. Not everybody in the United States. We can't all be white collar, not blue collar manufacturing.
Agreed.
Thing is, you're always going to have auto mechanics. You're going to have electricians. You're going to have carpenters.
I agree.
I mean, we've stripped that out of the schools to start with, too.
I agree. I think
Shop mechanics is gone. Woodworking's gone.
any sort of trade
You've got
skills
trade
ever.
schools that, yeah.
We have an entire generation of people that were told go to college and get some useless degree in
Yeah,
some social science, or you're going to be useless.
Yeah.
I think what happens is manufacturing is dead, and it's going to get automated and robotified anyway.
Yeah, we're lights out facilities now. Anheuser-Busch has been lights out in their canning facility.
Is that wrong?
98% of the time they're lights out. No, it's not. Because guess what? If we can manufacture and deliver like that, do you need a person doing it? Yeah, it took away jobs, but let's figure out what can we do to resource those jobs and reallocate
What's
them.
cheaper than Chinese labor?
Automating it ourselves.
What is the difference between China and America? Consumptive capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to automate and we were to automate, what's the difference between both of us? We could still buy shit.
Right.
And now they're unemployed with 1 billion people. And what happens to communism with unemployment increasing and people feeling like they're not getting their social contract worth? It implodes.
Implodes.
This is why I always bet on America.
No,
This is why I'm optimistic. It was preordained. We were always going to win. It just depends. Now what we're arguing about is how we'll win.
yeah.
It's not going to be Russia. It's not going to be China. It's not going to be India. It's not going to be the EU. It's not going to be any of these countries. Fuck you. It's the U.S. Always has been, always will be. not because we rest on our laurels. It can easily implode if we allow it to. Duly noted. You're absolutely right. And every empire will rise and fall. However, America, when the day comes that America falls, the world will go with it. I am 100% on that. We are too intertwined. Our commerce is too interlocked. Our geopolitical natures are too intertwined. 3 ways that America falls: implosion from within through societal norms changing, which I think is that is the most likely
That's
option.
the most likely.
That's the most likely option. Start telling people that, you can, whatever. I don't want to get too political on this one. What have you? You know what I mean? Number 2, nuclear war. Fastest way to do it. Number 3, a slow recession of mediocrity and then allowing someone else to take our hegemony over the world. But that'll never happen because there's no other free democracy like us. It's not going to be China.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Russia. It's not going to be India. It's not going to be the European Union. It's not going to be any of the countries they're in. The benefit of America is that we don't actually have a real competitor. Not
No, we don't.
Not governmentally, not capitalistically, not really. Everybody else thinks that can China build a monorail or hyperloop and all this other shit because they have communism and they can fucking order their people to do some shit. Yeah, looks great until you ask the people. Doesn't work if it doesn't work.
No, trust me, working with enough people over there,
They fucking hate it. They all want to come here. We just got to make sure that we make here still the place that people want to come. So that's all I'll say about that.
Oh.
Forgive me. I did not think we were going to rant an hour and a half on this shit, man. I
didn't think we'd go that far deep either, but it was good.
I love it.
It was interesting.
I want to ask you a couple questions, if you don't mind. Do you still have some time?
I have plenty of time.
Do you need to take a break or anything?
I'm good. I want to lean in and get a pour, though.
Yeah. Get your thing. I'll ask a question while you do that.
Go ahead.
We talked earlier about your relationship with Bob Barton.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if we talked about your relationships with, like, everybody else, like the MMA community at large. You've been in this game longer than I have, Jim. Like, I was a fighter for 10 years, but you were there before I was there.
Just slightly.
Yeah, but still, longer is longer.
And I've been out probably hip surgeries. I probably walked away a little over a year ago, right before I had my last
I retired
surgery.
2.5 years ago. You were there longer.
Well, I was there at that fight, yeah.
What is your relationship like with the fighters, the coaches, the managers, the promoters? What is your relationship like with them?
I've got none right now. I've kind of
no shit.
stepped away. That I'll hear from Jesse every now and then, message him and that. If I go to a fight, I'll see Brad and Marlene. If I go to Nemesis show, I see Jeremy and Craig every other week. But, I mean, I've pretty much just
been out of it,
kind of backed out of the scene and sit back. It's like when I go to a fight, I'll sit there and it's like, we talked about Jake Roberts earlier, and then I'll see Jake there. I'll see Mike there say hi. But it's pretty much in passing now. I mean, I'll see some of the fighters who I grew up at shooting them from day one and that. And I'll connect with those guys if I go. But, I mean, I've really just kind of stepped back into the shadows, and that's about it now since I quit shooting.
How does that make you feel? Do you like that? Is that what you wanted?
You and I talked earlier about how many guy friends do you have? I got Jeremy Craig and that. I stay in touch with a few others. I got a few guys like Cody Law with Bellator, stay in touch with him still every now and then and that. Dave Davis, who used to be the ring announcer with Rumble Time.
How's he doing?
Dave's doing good.
I haven't talked to him in a while.
I follow his kid Lane, who's down at Belmont University in Tennessee. And that he wants to get into music and that. Hell of a guitar player, singer, having some fun. But Dave and I touch base every now and then. We haven't seen each other in years. Dave and I, when he was announcing, he was driving for FedEx at the time. He was a nighttime driver.
I didn't know that.
Not a route driver, but semi, that he would drive back and forth and that. And I get done. David called me at 10 o'clock at night. And I was single and that. And I'd hop on the phone with him. Got to be at work at 7. And we chat the whole time while he's fucking driving.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. I had to be at work in the morning. He's calling me at 10 at night.
I didn't know that he was an overnight
Yeah,
guy.
he was an overnight driver for FedEx, just doing DC to DC, going between distribution centers and that. But talk to him every now and then. But for the most part, it's
Is he still announcing?
no. He hasn't announced in a while. I think he did a Greg show once, but he was a TV anchorman for a while, and now he stepped out and he's doing something new.
You know what's crazy? A lot of people are going to hate on me because of Tony Biondo, and Joe Parisi. He was the best.
I thought, honestly,
Locally, he was the best.
Dave is the best I've worked with. Personally, I like Parisi. I miss Tony Biondo. Tony was good people in that, and
Tony's great too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
No.
trying to say that like
all
Tony was bad.
three of them. But Dave, to me, he brought the most excitement and fire
Dude,
to
I
it.
was a fighter.
And he was there for the fighters. It wasn't.
He was the man.
Yeah.
He was the man. I enjoyed him immensely. Fight Hard. It's tough to talk about Fight Hard because what it became with Kenny Nowling and the falling and all that. But it's also, I feel bad for the guys who never experienced it. Because Fight Hard
Fight
was
in front
the
of 10,000
fucking
people.
shit. Fight Hard was the shit.
Yeah.
Having free tickets that you could just hand out to all your friends. I remember when I was selling tickets for Jim Jenkins, I could maybe sell like 30 or 40 tickets because I was like a young up and coming guy.
Mhm.
And then I would go to Fight Hard and like my friends would be like, these tickets are free. I gave away like 300 tickets.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that business model.
No, there was.
The B2B versus B2C.
I mean, it was good. It was great for. I thought it was great for the fighters. It was great for the fans.
was-
Because how many fans you got to bring their kids? How do you afford a family afford to go to an event?
All ages, everybody can get in free, so you can get a van in there. You only have to pay $20 for parking.
Yeah.
And then obviously concessions and all that other stuff. No, listen, I'll say this about Kenny Nowling. I think he's a piece of shit human being, but as a businessman, not the worst. Not the worst.
It was funny. I was at one of my nephew's football games a few years ago, and my kids are in their one turns 30 this year, the other's 33, so they're similar to you. They're close to your age, right in there. And so I've been out of their sports for a while. My nephew, my brother's kids, I'd go on road trips with them and take pics of their high school, college games. My wife's nephew was playing football and that, and all of a sudden I hear Jimmy Range. Turn around, it's fucking Kenny Nowling at one of the games. So I sat and caught
How
up with
long
him a
ago
little
was
bit.
this?
Charlie graduated 2 years ago. He's graduating JUCO this year. Yeah, so it's 2.5 years ago, say, football season. So 3 years, say.
So this was after all the fallout.
After all the fallout and everything, it was just good to kind of catch up on that and socialize
did
a
you
bit.
ask him about?
Dude,
Yeah.
I stay out of all that shit.
Yeah.
It's here nor there to me. But I mean, it was just kind of, hey, caught up a little bit in that, and I walked back on the sideline and kept taking pics.
You know what's funny? I didn't think about this until just now. I should have him on the podcast. Him and Jim Jenkins.
Can you get Michael to come up for it?
Michael who?
Michael Nowling. He's
Oh,
the one
his
who owns,
brother,
he
his
owns
brother.
Fight Me. So
Didn't his brother knock him out?
I've heard rumor of that.
Yeah, I heard that rumor too.
But so Michael one year, Bob and myself and Bob's neighbor were all going on down to the Everglades for a weekend, an extended weekend trip. Again, we traveled the whole freaking country. Never made it fully out west, but we hit Colorado a lot. We hit Smoky Mountains. We hit the Everglades quite a bit. And we flew in, we drove down, and we met Mike. Told Michael, we're gonna be in town. We're gonna stop by to the gym to see how it is and that. They had a full fucking spread for us. They barbecued. They had street corn on I mean, everything. Everybody from the gym was there. It was freaking phenomenal. I mean, just
Was Mike completely different from Kenny?
night and day.
I never met Mike.
Mike's got a couple fighters in UFC.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Was he a trainer? A
Yeah, he
coach?
trained. He still runs his gym. He's got a gym down there he runs. And he's got the Fight Me name back. Because that's what Fight Hard started. It was Fight
started
Me.
as like Fight Me, yeah. Never makes business with pleasure, man.
But that's his life. Is he's got that gym down there, and Mike's doing pretty good for himself. Michael is.
You know, we were talking about this off the record, and I'll say it on the record because I know that your kids also did wrestling. It's because I said earlier that if I would have never met J.D. Amato, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. But if I would have never wrestled, then I would have never met J.D. Amato. I would have never started into fighting. I would have never gotten into fighting. I would have never met you. We wouldn't be here today. This podcast would not exist.
I mean, God, I mean, I look at me shooting combat sports started with me laying on the mat at my youngest son's high school wrestling matches.
I didn't know that. So you took photos of him first?
Yeah. I mean, when he was in high school, I went doll him. 'Cause, I mean, I grew up from the time they were playing football, and that I coached baseball. I didn't coach him in football. Well, one year I did. He didn't like Dad being coach because Dad was a hard ass on him and wouldn't let him get away with what he wanted to get away with. I said to you earlier.
His father's his coach.
High school football coach.
Yep. But I said to you earlier about the fact that Jonathan, Dad, why didn't you make me wrestle when I was younger? I go, you didn't want to. Because he was a fat kid. I say fat kid, and I say that lovingly because he was a lineman. I mean,
He's a big boy.
John's always been a big boy. And they don't want to wrestle. I mean, and
heavyweight as a freshman's tough, man. You're going against all the seniors.
You're going against everybody in that. But the thing was, John was passive. He didn't have a fucking killer instinct. And you and I were talking about, to me, it's a character you build. Everything it does with you going forward. And his junior year, I don't know what happened, but the switch flipped. I mean, he dominated everything he wrestled JV that year. Because the rest of the time, I mean, I told you what you learned from your kids as a dad and that. John would be getting his ass beat wrestling. I was still laying around the mat shooting picks. The thing that amazed me is John may not have had the killer instinct, but I would shoot I would shoot the whole team's matches. So I'm on that mat listening. And you know, you got the freshman JV and then you got the varsity mat. And all the kids are there. I mean, you were there. It's a team event. You own what you win, but you're there as a team supporting your team, which to me ties into life. It's a big life lesson, which is to me why wrestling's so fucking critical for younger kids to learn. Because it builds that character you get and you learn from it. Close your eyes and listen to him on the bench talking to his other wrestlers. He may not have had a mindset to execute it, but listening to him talk, it was like, holy shit.
He gets it.
He got it inside and out. I mean, you'd have sworn it was one of his coaches. And he had some great coaches because he was down at Seckman with Cody Green.
Oh, my God. Seckman's a powerhouse.
So he had Cody Green. And
being JV there is like being varsity everywhere else.
I mean, but he literally, his freshman, sophomore, he got his ass handed to him. Junior
Class 3,
year,
Class 4, bigger schools.
Switch flipped. No, but I mean, he got his ass handed to him by everybody because he didn't put the effort. And this is where I talk about his
kind of
wrestling all of a sudden. And he said, Dad, this is a question, why did you make me wrestle when I was younger? Because all of a sudden it clicked inside him, holy shit, I've got to put my effort in or I'm hurting everybody else too. Most improved wrestler. I mean, and this is where you talk about what do you learn from your kids. All of a sudden he had to learn on his own that I can do this. Had a great year, won a couple varsity matches that year as a junior, and after getting his ass handed to him first two and everything. Senior year of football, then he's out there and he's pushing it. All of a sudden he's hungry because he saw what he did. First interactive scrimmage with another school, tore a tendon in his foot, completely took him backwards with everything. He wrestled his junior year, actually his junior year, and then senior year too. He wrestled heavyweight, never weighed over 216 pounds the entire year.
Oh my God!
Because he kept
For
weight
those that don't understand, the maximum heavyweight was 270, right?
Yeah.
265, 270, 285 now.
285.
So being 216, you're giving up almost 60 pounds.
Because he kept weight to still wrestle at 220 if he had to.
If he needed to, yeah. That's insane. 215 when I was in high school.
But that's the thing, when I look at the character builds and I look at him now, he's not that kid that he was before that. He's still Jonathan in his quirky ways. But wrestling is what drove him to push himself and realize, I can't do this. Football didn't do it because he could rely on everybody else on the mat. Baseball, he could rely on people. Any other sport, he could rely on everybody else out there. Wrestling, he learned it's what John Range puts into it.
It's one of the few individual sports, and it's the only individual interactive sport.
Right.
So like in swimming, it's individual, in track, it's individual, other sports is individual, but there's no sport like wrestling where it's individual and physical. I'm interacting with an
Exactly.
individual. I'm not trying to, beat a time or hit this or whatever. Wrestling was one of the best things I ever did in my life because, to your point, I started in high school. And it clicked for me at an early age, and I was lucky about that, and I was able to get a state medal from it. But when I was in high school, I remember that all I wanted was that state medal. I wanted to go to state, I wanted a medal, I wanted to be on the podium, all these other things. But, Jimmy, I don't know where that medal is. It's in some dumpster somewhere, in some landfill, you know what I mean? But all the things that I learned from wrestling, all the life skills and the mental acuity, outside of my parents, outside of college, because I learned a lot in college, wrestling is what helped shape me to be the man that I am today.
You hear it through your conversation tonight, the way you think, the way you approach things, the
Yeah,
broader vision you've got.
meritocracy and suck it up pussy, I
And-
know.
I mean, I truly think it is probably the most character building sport there is.
I agree. Bar none, and I think I think football's tough. I think there's a lot of sports that are tough, and I don't want to diminish any of those sports, but I don't think they teach the same things that wrestling teaches. I think they teach different things. How to work well in a team, how to overcome adversity. I think sports are good in general. However, whenever I'm doing hiring, one of the things I'll ask in the interview, what sports did you play in high school? And I'm biased. If they tell me wrestling, how
They
many
got a
years?
leg up.
How many years? Oh, 4 years. Did you wrestle before then? No, just in high school. What'd you think of wrestling? Best sport I ever did. Cool, thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. You know what I mean? Thank you, Tom. Duly noted. Because at the very least, I know that if I put that person in a stressful situation, they're chill, they're comfortable, they're fine. It's another Tuesday.
Yep.
I agree with you. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I coach it. I'm glad I'm in it. My goal now with the sport is to give into it the way it gave to me, which I think is the natural progression of all life. You know what I mean? You took from it, so now it's time to give back. And it's interesting to see, because when you're a competitor versus a spectator versus a coach versus an official, I've had Bourbon on, I've had coaches on like Paul. I myself am a coach, and I used to be a competitor. It's interesting to see how everyone seems to have a different perspective, but the same reverence.
Right.
Everyone collectively agrees, like, this is different, which is a beauty to that. It's like truth. Everybody can objectively view this thing and say, okay, we're all coming to the same conclusion. We don't know what it is. We don't know why it is.
But
it's
it
different.
is.
But it is. I agree with you 100% where I think everybody should do it at least once or 4 years. And I love the fact that it's expanded to women as well, that women can now wrestle, because to isolate half of the human population to these lessons is kind of a disservice of the rest of society. So I'm excited to see what happens with the sport of wrestling, how it progresses, how it evolves. So I'm glad that your son did it.
I am too, and he truly appreciates it too. So,
Brother, I feel like I didn't do this conversation justice, and I wanted to apologize. There were some things that I wanted to ask you specifically about your past and everything, and I'm sorry, we're already 2.5 hours in. You know what I mean? Isn't it crazy how time flies?
I mean, we went down a couple of rabbit holes I never would have expected us to go down.
You think so, really? I always thought that we saw pretty eye to eye.
No, we do, but I just think some of the directions we took with our conversation, where a topic came up and all of a sudden we detoured. When I say the rabbit hole,
My
I say
bad.
the detour.
My bad.
It's both of us, because I brought them up at times. So
Do you think that's good or bad for a podcast?
I think it's good because it's genuine conversation.
Yeah.
If you stay
I was literally
rigid,
about to say
you're
that.
fucked. I like the fact that we took the detours and it made us both think a little bit about what we're talking about and approach it.
It's the most genuine thing.
Is there any piece of criticism you would give me about this or the platform or how I handle it? Should I write down questions, you think?
No, because then it's scripted.
I agree 100%.
See, here's the problem I've got with our show. And Tony, have you ever watched our show? Has he ever had you watch it?
I have
MMA
not.
No,
Bourbon.
because of the alcohol, forgive me.
I've met Jeremy though.
But
Great guy.
if you're ever bored, go watch MMA Bourbon Appreciation Society. Yeah, we half the
you
show's
it's
alcohol.
funny. It's funny that I think that, but then I've been
So
sitting
we're
here
sitting here
drinking
pouring
in
and
front
drinking
of you.
in front of 'em, yeah.
So I'm a hypocrite.
I mean, we
Forgive
killed
me.
half a bottle of Dram tonight.
You want to do the other half? Can we get a 5-hour podcast? What do
I
you
know
got
how to
going on?
Uber. Let's do it. I Ubered home from poker a
Don't
couple
tease me
weeks
with
ago when
a
I
good
lost
time.
my ass.
He's getting paid hourly. He's happy no matter
I'll
what.
sit here all day.
But no, I mean, but like, what drives me crazy is our show. I love Craig to death, but you know how Craig is. So there's 3 of us that do our show. Jeremy's entrepreneur. I'm corporate entrepreneur, same time. And dude, it's fucked me having to do corporate taxes this year for the first time because I'm a consultant. How the fuck do I fill out a balance sheet when I've got no liabilities or anything? It's like, fuck me.
I say you do it by the books, sir.
I am, sir, but I'm saying, and I'm on
and find
camera
a very
knowing
good
it.
accountant that you have a great
Well, I
relationship
screwed up that I
with.
didn't wait for that because I figured because I was
Do you need a good accountant?
no, I'll make it work this year.
Okay.
'Cause I've got 4 days to file this shit.
If you need a guy, well, you can extend it.
I can, but then I just got to extend both.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. It's been a year since I've done my taxes by April.
yeah. So, but no,
Better to take the time and do it
no, I know.
right.
I might look at doing it.
Forgive me, but you're talking about the makeup of MMA Bourbon Society.
Yeah,
Jeremy Johnson's
Craig's
the
very
entrepreneur, you're
different.
corporate.
I'm corporate entrepreneur at the same time. Craig is like, fuck this shit. I hate it. I don't ever want to work a day in my fucking life again. You've been there. You know what he's like. He's anti everything.
I think
And-
Craig is your comedic grump.
He is our comedic grump, but when it comes to trying to get ready for a show, you got to have some idea so you can prep on what our discussions are for a show like that.
Sorry.
No, good call. We've got to have some idea what our topics are for a show.
How much prep do you guys do before the MMA Bourbon Society?
We used to do a pretty good job of, all right, here's our run for tonight of what we're going to talk about. Not questions wise, but here's our topics.
Let me ask you this. Your last episode that you guys did where I was like blowing up your comments, I'm sorry. How much prep did you do before that one?
What was our topics?
I mean, everything from what is a higher probability, Conor McGregor becoming the president of Ireland or him
Well, I
fighting
threw that one.
Michael
I'd
Chandler?
already prepped on that because that was one I was going to bring up. Jeremy is going
It's
to
a
bring
great
it
fucking question. I think it's president of Ireland, by the way.
up. But no, we haven't done much prep at all lately. So
Can I be honest with you? I've liked
I
the
don't
product.
like going in blind though because not knowing where we're going to go MMA wise.
So what I was going to say was, piggybacking off of the criticism that I asked of you for my podcast is I find the MMA Bourbon Society immensely satisfying. It is the best compliment I can give you is I look forward to it the same way I look forward to other podcasts. So you guys are on Facebook, and then you upload the vlogs onto YouTube and Spotify and all that. But I like to watch live because you guys do something that I don't do, the live
We have
interactions.
live interaction.
That's fucking ballsy to do live anyway. Just because I'm so worried about something being said that's not kosher.
Dude, we got Craig. We can't worry about something being said that's not kosher. Our whole goal is to get through the first 5 minutes, and that happens maybe 1 out of every 5 shows.
When did you guys start incorporating the guests? Because I know Colton was there when
Colton was one of the first ones. We had Danny from the Rack House, who's their sous chef.
Nice.
Came
Oh,
on.
Yeah.
He actually
Taco
brought
King.
food.
Yeah.
We had oh shit, he's gonna kick my ass. McVee, what's MMA fighter? Long
With a
hair.
V?
No, long hair. He's on your show twice, episode 13 and 82.
1382.
He's an MMA
no.
fighter.
Oh, recently?
Yeah. I got his name wrong. I know it. Tall guy. He's taller than me.
Why am I drawing a blank? MMA fighters? Here's the problem. I have like 60,000 MMA fighters.
I know.
Episode 82 was Bourbon.
No.
What was the episode after that?
What was episode 13?
What's that? Recently, name off the guys.
God, I can't think of his name.
Jeremy Boyer.
No.
Barbara, Lily, Jackson McVeigh.
Jackson McVeigh. I said
Okay,
McVeigh.
okay,
McVeigh.
sorry.
Okay, I wasn't as far
when
off.
you're talking about me, like, oh, you had an MMA fighter on, I'm like, which one?
But we had him on one day.
Jackson's a riot.
He's funnier than shit.
Taco King was actually a riot as well. The problem with Taco King at the time was here's the problem I have with, okay, I find that I do much better with my conversations with people that I've already known.
Yeah.
And Taco King I met, and whenever I have Taco King back on for the second time,
It'll flow
I
better.
guarantee you it'll be an immensely better product.
Yeah.
Because I know the guy better. But that's the thing, is like,
See, Matt knows those guys. Jeremy knew him. I don't know Taco King. I knew who Jackson was, but I never met him.
but you shouldn't have to correlate the success of an episode with people that you know, because then you're going to hamstring yourself.
Right.
That's a skill set I'm trying to learn. Is like, how do I make the episodes with the people that I don't know as good as the people that I do know?
But the conversation should just flow.
Well, you know what the problem is? Can I say something? And this is gonna. I am not criticizing any of my guests. I love you all. Some people want to be on a podcast and are not prepared to be on a podcast or a show of any sort.
Right.
You know what I mean? They think it's fun, and it is fun. It's a great time. But it's like, brother, I don't need the best extrapolation. I don't need 400 IQ plays here. But what I need you to explain to me how you think and why you think, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where is it that you're coming to this conclusion? I had a couple episodes that have never aired. One of them was a friend of mine, and dude, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was like I had an idea of what that conversation was going to be like, and then I was getting 1 to 2 word responses.
Oh, man.
And it was turning into like an interview. And I ran out of questions. It was one of the few times where, like, instead of being engrossed in the conversation and having back and forth, I was like, I got to think of the next question, because this guy's going to give me nothing. And let's just say we didn't air it.
No, I get it. I think one of the things we need to do for our show, and I haven't brought it up to Jeremy and Craig yet. I want
Dancing girls in the back.
No, Steve Smith already did that at a Rebel Time show.
Upside down handstand twerks.
My wife may not like that on the bar.
Come on, for the dollar.
No, but Jeremy does all the interviewing.
Yeah, here.
I want your thought on this.
Can I
As
be
an
honest with
outsider
you?
who watches, me bringing in somebody that I want to talk to about the show and drive, and
Very-
have Craig do it. Let Craig drive a conversation with somebody.
Very fair. Here's my thing. Tell Jeremy to stop being Jeremy. Like, the best conversations I've had with Jeremy are when he's being himself. And the second time I had him on the podcast, it was a lot more like Jeremy the person, not Jeremy the announcer,
Jeremy, the
commentator.
personality.
Yeah, man. I don't think Jeremy realizes this, because here's the problem. There's a disconnect, because when Jeremy came up, it was like radio and the internet and all this other stuff when it was nascent. Jeremy's actually a lot more as an individual.
We can play this episode too when we go live
Yeah,
with it.
fucking yeah. Listen, this is all on the record. Jeremy, I love you, brother.
I do too.
When
but
Jeremy does this is Jeremy Johnson, I'm like, stop. The best version of you is when, like, we're getting fucking tacos after the fucking show.
Yeah.
Or when we got drinks that one night and we were just bullshitting. Dude, Jeremy's an intelligent individual. Be yourself. That's the best version of him.
he bounces shit off me all the time.
What do you mean he runs
He'll
the shit
reach
off
out when he's got an idea. Hey, what do you think?
you? Well, because that's the kind of person he is.
But that's Jeremy being Jeremy versus Jeremy in front of the camera.
Yes,
is what
I
I'm saying.
think he's
It
still
ties into
stuck
what
in
you're
like
saying.
1999 TV. I'm Jeremy Johnson. Hello. Brother, the Jeremy Johnson I talk to outside of all this shit is hilarious. The memes, all this other shit. Be you, brother. Be you. In this day and age, people crave authenticity.
Yep.
And Jeremy is actually like a cool fucking guy. Like, if you learn Jeremy Johnson, He's actually very enjoyable.
He's done a lot of fun shit. How many people know about the bands he's been in and that? And toured?
Not just that, he's just cool.
Yeah.
Like, talk to him, sit down with him. He's a nice guy.
But that's what I'm saying is the character behind him isn't just a TV personality and not some fight.
I hope it doesn't sound like I'm criticizing him because obviously, like, listen, I like the product, right? And a part of that product is the Jimmy Johnson persona. All I'm saying is, dude, JJ, when he's not being JJ, is the best JJ. And as far as Craig goes, I got to be honest with you, from a perspective of like the spectator, the Grump comic is fucking great.
I'd love to see him interview somebody.
Craig? I would love to see him interview
I'd love
someone
to see
he
him
doesn't
drive
like.
a conversation. Yeah,
I would, but you would need to make sure that like no one could get punched in that. Does that make sense?
we're gonna have him on video.
I've had some guests where I was like, what if this goes south?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because I got expensive equipment. I don't want anybody making a scene, and because like, you know, I think about it, it's like, yeah, I could fuck you up, but you could break a camera, and then I'm out like $4,000. You know what I mean? So it's
because your video equipment's a hell of a lot nicer than ours. We got a fucking iPhone.
yeah, but dude, you guys make it work. Like Fraser and I talk about all the things. It's like, here's what I'm gonna say: if you have amazing equipment but the product sucks, good luck. And if you have an awesome product but the equipment sucks, you can always
We
scale.
got the best bar in St. Louis. Pardon me while I break my arm, pat myself on the back.
In terms of whiskey selection,
Dude, the bar is pretty fucking cool too.
You have bottles in there that I have not seen. This is another bottle. By the way, I've never in my life, and I've been drinking now for 2 years heavily. Don't quote me on that one. I've never seen this drink. I've never seen this bottle.
What's it called?
It's got fucking dust on it, my dude.
Did I not wipe the dust off? That's been sitting in the bottom of my barrel.
A midwinter's night. No, sorry.
Midwinter's
a midwinter
night dram.
night's.
Midwinter Night's Dram.
What is a dram?
It's a pour.
God bless. And by the way, not even a fan of ryes. So, fucking amazing.
I said I rolled the dice with bringing a rye out to you.
Polished off a half a bottle in a
And Tony,
conversation.
you can ask your dad what he thinks of ryes. If he's a double oak guy.
He likes double oak.
That's a complete different direction.
Senior, I don't know. Nah, I hope it never watches this. No, I can only also, like, sometimes I run the risk of sounding like a complete douche. Because I also
I'm going to say this. You question yourself a lot. I might sound like a douche when I say this. Fuck that, dude. Don't preface it. Just be you.
Yeah.
Because I know you can edit it out. But
that's what I don't want to do.
But when you say, I don't want to come across like a douche, you know what that implies?
I'm going to have to say
I want to be
something
a
douchey.
fucking douche, so fuck you. And Tony, you can edit that piece out. But you know what? The reason I brought that up for, right? Because I do it all the time, too. I don't want to sound like an ass. And I'll hear from my buddies. But you're going to be a complete fucking asshole, so why say it?
Can I say something, though? The difference between someone like you saying it and someone like me is the age bias. When I pontificate on my feelings and my emotions and what I think, what's the natural retort that I'm going to get? Shut the fuck up, kid. You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And
You
they're
are a
not
fucking
wrong.
kid.
Yeah, they're not fucking wrong. They're not wrong. But here's what I'm also going to say.
I got a granddaughter your age, by the way.
But here's what I'm also going to say. Let's check our portfolios. Let's see how much. This is what I mean. Like, I don't want to sound like a douche.
Let's go band for band, as the kids would say.
No, you know what? No, I'm going to fucking say it. I take great pride in everything that I've fucking done.
You should.
You know what I mean?
You fucking should.
I try my hardest not to... Ah, man, how do I word this properly and not lose viewership?
I'm going to step in for you, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Yes,
and that way you don't have to say it.
I appreciate you.
You brought up earlier, if I recall correctly, and I do try to pay attention to full conversations as many directions as we went. 16 years old, started your first portfolio. Building it, growing it, paying attention to the market, learning, looking for when adjustments are going to happen, when you need to make changes. You've built that.
Yes.
We brought up earlier the fact, and I stated, you build a fucking company, you deserve everything that comes with the growth of that company. You're the one who put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. You've done that with what you've done at 32 years old, from 16 to 32, your investment portfolio, all of that of paying attention to market, finance degree, which makes sense going after that with what you've done. You have taken it and built on it. So you have the right to say, I'm 32, I've built this. I started with zero here. Here's where I'm at 16 years later.
Can I add an additional layer to that? If I were to have started now, if I didn't have what I had, and I were to start from zero now, there's no doubt in my mind that I'd be back here in a couple of years. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because you paid attention to what's going on and how to get there, and you've got the drive to do so. I think that's a key part of it, is the drive
To do so.
to do it. I want to give an analogy my brother gave me a couple years ago when I was truly in the consulting world, and I was
Do you forgive me for asking? Do you consult in IT, IS?
IT primarily.
Okay, forgive me. you
But
were
I was
talking-
working for a consulting company, and my role was expected to sell. I'm not a salesperson. Everybody tells me, Jim Raines, you are. You sell, you bullshit, you talk, you can sell what you're doing. But I'm not to go knock on the door and sell stuff. And I went talking to my brother about it. And my brother, who's pretty successful, him and my nephew, both who's 26 years old, go, tell him if you're going to sell, you want 100% of all commissions you get from it.
Interesting.
And I'm like, but I'm not a salesperson. They go, yeah, you can do it if you want it. If you really want it, you're going to be hungry enough to say, I want 100%. I don't want to be based off my bonus structure.
Yeah.
But that's the mindset of, if you want it, go get it. Go after it.
But not everybody has them. Oh my gosh.
But
we've
that's where I'm going is, my brother and I, same family, same background, same raising, two different perceptions on how to approach that.
I used to think that everybody was. I want to be okay. You know what? Let me take a step back. I used to get angry as a youth with some of my friends that were content, because I had friends that didn't want to go to school. They didn't want to get a trade school. They would work at some place making $18 an hour in 2011, which is amazing money. But the cap on that is like $22 an hour when they're 40.
So you're going to make $45,000 a year.
But they were fine with that. Like, they are happy. And I wish, in some ways, I wish that I was an individual who could be content. And in a lot of ways, this is why I have this painting up, because of all the 7 deadly sins. I think the one that I don't have a whole lot of wrath. I'm not a gluttonous person. I envy no man. I lust over no women. I'm not a sloth. But the one thing that I do suffer from is greed. I've just never had enough. And every time I've achieved a thing, I'm like, cool, on to the next. Awesome. Goal achieved. Next goal. I wanted to make enough money so that I could have a wife and kid. Cool. Now I want to make enough money to buy whatever I want a different Rolex for every day of the week. I want a different suit for every day of the month.
Is that greed?
Yes. Yes.
Is it really, or is it you're setting things to drive you to better yourself to reach those achievements?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be tied to tangible goods. That's what makes it greedy. If it was as if like it was simply like an internal goal that I was trying to overcome, I would agree with you. But the fact is, I like my car, I like my house, I like all this other shit. Therefore, I'm a greedy individual.
I pissed my wife
But here's
off
the
that I
thing
like
is
my
like,
toys.
but here's the thing is like, you know, yes, I am, and I'm tired of trying to fight that I'm not. I'm a greedy individual who wants more, but also it's not just tangible. I want more love. I want more affection. I want more respect. I want to give more. I want to be more. I want to change more. I don't want to be beholden to other people. I don't want someone else from Mount on High to bestow upon me. I want to be the one who bestows upon others. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm not saying that I know everything. And I'm not saying that, like, my current success is going to be my future success. But what I am saying is there are different people that strive for different things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I envy the individuals that are content because I've never felt that. I've never in my life, 32 years old, been content. And sometimes I worry that I never will be. And that is both my sword, like the sword in which I swing, and the sword in which I will die upon. Maybe.
I get that. You're no different than a lot of other people.
Explain.
There's a lot of people who always want to continue growing, driving.
But it's not just that. Growing is like everybody, I think, does that.
No.
Everybody wants to grow. You don't
When
think
you
so?
say being complacent and you're okay with where the status quo where you're at once you hit a certain level,
But growth, like individual growth and like monetary
individual growth
slash...
and monetary, to me, growing and expanding and getting better and better and better ties into that monetary as well. You're not just broadening, going left, right, north, south.
Do you feel content?
No, I always want more. It's the reason I can't retire.
Is that good or bad?
I don't think it's bad.
What if you...
I get asked all the time by my wife, how are you going to retire if you keep spending? I keep working and I keep driving. I don't plan on ever stopping 100%.
You know what? Cheers, brother. If you have a money spending problem, you better have a money making problem.
I don't have a money spending problem. I just tend to buy toys that I want and expand those toys.
What... You're at a different stage in your life than I am. I'm going to ask you this question.
Here we go.
You've had kids come and go in the house where they've gone off to college or trade school, whatever it is, the path that they have chosen. By the way, how many children do you have?
I got two boys. My wife's got a daughter. We've got two grandchildren. A granddaughter lives with us.
God bless.
She's 17, which is what I joked that my granddaughter's same age as Tony.
Yeah. God bless.
She's a senior this year. You're a senior this year, right?
Yeah, he's about to graduate.
So
in a lot of ways,
I've run the full spectrum of life.
exactly what I was going to say. I think to myself, when I was 18 years old, Jimmy, I used to stay up at night. I'm not lying to you when I say this. I would literally cry because I was so petrified of the future. I was so petrified of being a failure, a loser. My mom was terminally ill. So, like, she had come and told my brother and I that, like, hey, I'm going to die in the next year. And you're going to be stuck with your dad. Love you, Dad. But I was going to lose a parent. My brother was already kind of like, I saw the inclinations of success with him. Whatever you think of me, times it by 10, my brother. My brother's the smartest guy I know, truthfully. So, like, I see my brother already starting to crush it. 3.5 years older than me. I see my mom who's like, all she wants from me is to just be fine, right? Like, when my mom was on her deathbed, she had a conversation with my dad, and she was like, my dad was basically asking her, and we weren't in the room, so, like, this is, like, secondhand experience from my dad telling me. But my dad basically had a conversation with my mom, like, how would you like me to handle everything? And my mom, the conversation they had was all centered towards me. She was so worried about me. She already knew that Andy was going to be fine. And that hit me in a certain way. So, like, maybe now that I'm saying this out loud, perhaps it is that, like, I feel this sort of... I've thought of this before. Perhaps I'm fucked up mentally. Like, there's something in me that's wrong, broken, fucked up. But it's been used in a positive way to change the trajectory of my life. Like a positive trauma. I talked to Garrett Gross on this as well. Duly noted. But, like, sometimes I also think, like, who the fuck cares? As long as the fuel is there. Regardless if it's, like, healthy or not. The outcome is what matters, right?
No, I agree 100% with that aspect. That it's the outcome that matters. When you take the step back and look at it, Is it something negative? Obviously, having your mother worried about you is going to cause you to think, what the fuck? Why is she worried about me?
On her deathbed, she's not
On her
even worried about
deathbed, she's
everything else
worried about
but
you.
me.
But at the same time, using that as fuel to drive yourself, why would that be a bad thing?
I think it's like
The most successful people in the world never stop. Does Richard Branson stop growing? The guy could walk away from everything. He's still building fucking businesses. He has not laid himself to only one business.
Is that healthy? Not businesses, but wanting more. Greed.
But so here's the thing. He develops it. He goes and plays. He runs with it. He's got the world. He's one of the richest people in the world. He does it from a perspective probably of, I was told I couldn't do this. I'm going to do it. But at the same time, it's always going forward. He's continually moving forward. What's the difference? What drives it?
I want to do. I'm like the Oh my God, there's no way to say this without sounding like an asshat. I'm the altruist capitalist. I want to do, or the utilitarian capitalist. My goal is before I die to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people that I can. And I'm not a fool. I understand that in order to do that, you have to have money. You have to have influence. You have to have power. You have to have love. You have to have respect. You have to have the admiration of your peers. So that when I ask someone to do something, they'll do it. And if I pay someone to do something, I'll have the money. And if I request something of someone, they'll have such admiration, they'll do it for me. So like for me, it's like I look at all these powerful men throughout my life that have mentored me. And I look at all these powerful men around me that I see. And I think to myself, you guys could be doing so much more for everybody. And I don't want to sound like a communist or a socialist, but like ultimately, what is the goal of all of this, right? The goal of all of this is to leave it better than you found it. Regardless if it's with money, regardless if it's with time and what you're giving to others and all this other stuff. I'm a product of everybody that's put into me. So like what I want to do before I die is put into others as much as I can. But in order to do that, everything else has to check. Money, time, fame, all this other shit. So it's like, what's my goal? My goal is that when I die, I have a fucking sea of people that are like, he left it better than he did. He did right by all these other people, and he was a good guy. Isn't that so crazy?
No, it's not. One thing you threw in there that I think you don't need to include, you threw in fame. Do you need to have the fame to have the influence?
I think they're the same. Influence is fame. The more people that know you, the more people that admire you, the more you can do. I don't mean fame from the sense of like I want people to know me. I don't give a fuck about
All right,
that.
so that's where my misconception.
Forgive
came
me.
into-
Influence.
but you see
Influence is a good word. Okay, fame and influence are
You
different.
want to be able to have the influence.
Yes, I don't really care how many people know me or know
But
of
you want to
me.
be able to influence and do it.
Yes,
There's
okay.
millionaires and billionaires who do it all the fucking time. Nobody knows who the fuck they are.
That's fair. That's fair. That is true.
You don't have to be an Elon or Larry Ellison or somebody to do that. The ones that have the most influence in those positive ways, I feel, are the ones that nobody knew was a fucking millionaire or billionaire to do it. All of a sudden, there's some legacy left behind when they die and their will's read.
Yeah.
At the same time, are you building the right legacy for your family that the family's taken care of?
Oh yeah, they're fine.
No, you know what I'm saying with it though, right? That how are you dividing? How are you doing it to make sure the family's taken care of?
Jimmy, they're fine.
Over generations. I know they are.
If I were to die today, they're fine.
But what's your goal as far as where I'm going? The impact overall to society, the impact to your family,
All of it. All of it. I'm greedy.
then
I don't think there's a difference. I think I need to be the best father, the best husband, the best human, right? So it's like the way I look at this, and maybe it's fucked up, but it's like why limit myself? Why can't I just do all things? Why can't what is the limiting factor? The limiting factor is time and money. Money I'll make more of, time I'm constrained on. So the more money I make in the short term, then that allows me to use up my very limited resource of time.
I'm going to throw something at you right there.
Go ahead.
Limited resource of time, taking care of your wife, your children, etc. You got to make sure you allocate some of that time to them.
I do.
No, we brought up earlier, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to play devil's advocate with this.
Go ahead.
And you can reach across the table with Jimmy, you're a fucking jack off
No,
saying
go ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
But the travel, the time with the family, I don't have time for travel. You can take the kids. The memories, the experiences with those kids and that, don't miss them. Don't make them have them without you.
You're fucking right.
You talked to me a little bit about when I talked about my transition, when I was traveling, spent time on the road, the impact that had on my kids that James has brought up to me, oldest has brought up a couple times. Don't let that impact you. When you say you're greedy, make sure you're greedy for the right reasons and with the right people impacted. Part of your greed should be making sure your family has everything they want and need. Part of what they're going to want, those kids are going to want time with mom and dad both. Your wife's going to want time with her husband and the kids. Enjoy those experiences. Time's limited. But you can learn to leverage, and I said it. How do I leverage? Do I need to have 40 hours, 50 hours a week at work? Can I do 35? Can I do 30? How do I take that time and make it beneficial for the rest of the family? The impact you want isn't just broad and vertical. It's directly intrinsic to those that are directly impacted by what you're doing on a daily basis. That's your wife and kids.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely right.
And it's not to say, hey, you're fucking up. It's
No.
just give a little deeper thought to our conversation with it.
Recalibrate the importance of what I
Exactly.
have.
Take that step back and say, hey, what are my priorities?
Is it possible to do it all? Am I wrong?
You can have an impact across everything. I'm going to use this part of my role that I do when I consult with companies and even when I'm in my corporate roles is strategic alignment. Everything cannot be a number one priority.
Agreed.
You can do it all, but it's going to take time to do it all. Take the step back, prioritize, look at it from that perspective. What's number one priority?
Family.
What's number two?
Legacy.
All right. What do I have to do to make sure that happens? What steps take me to reach that? What's my next?
Financially speaking, covered. Structurally speaking, covered. Now we're talking about time allocation, which, duly noted, is an ongoing thing.
So you need to look at all, taking holistic.
Which, by the way, I don't want to make it sound like it's work. I enjoy spending time with my family. I adore it.
I didn't take it as that.
Forgive
Don't get me wrong. I did not take it like that. But the fact that, and I said I was the same way. I worked. I took a fucking job in Buffalo because market sucked in St. Louis. I had a great opportunity to go do some international consulting. Who's not going to take it?
If it makes financial sense. You have a family
At the
to
same
feed.
time, though, I was away from my kids. I was divorced. They took personal offense to it. One of them did. That, why'd you leave us here and not take us to Buffalo with you? Which was not feasible at the time, but they didn't understand it.
Have you had the conversation since?
Oh, yeah, we have. We talked about it. Our
Everything's-
relationship's grown. It's not perfect, but it's grown. But it's when I talk about reasons for change earlier in my life. It's little things like that that it's a wake-up call. It's better to take the step back and think about what's the impacts, what I'm doing early than later on.
I spend a lot of time pondering the different roles and genders, and sometimes I go back and forth on who has it harder. Sometimes I think it's men because we have so much on our shoulders, but then sometimes I think it's women because they have to invest so much into a man, and it's kind of like a gamble. Did I pick the right man? You know what I mean? All these other things. The conclusion that I've come to is life is fucking hard. It's hard.
If it was easy, they wouldn't have a fucking game called life.
Yeah. Then also sometimes I think to myself, well done. The first person that's done this. I think to myself sometimes, am I fucking crazy? I'm thinking about all this other shit. Like, sometimes I just fucking do. If I eliminated the extracurriculars and just did work and my family, sometimes I think, like, would life be better? But then I'd have less of an impact, right? And then life might be better for me, but is it better for, like, everything? And tell me if I'm crazy, please. My job as a man, I'm not a woman. Like, forgive me, ladies, this is kind of isolated to men now. My job as a man is not just like to protect and provide and nurture and love, like, just my family. I had other men and other coaches and models and you know, mentors. I would not be where I am without them. I wouldn't. If it was just my dad and my mom, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So then, like, don't I owe? And maybe it's like, you know, like that fucked up thing about, like, gratitude and, like, wanting to give it back. Like, maybe, like, do I owe anybody anything? I don't think I owe anybody anything, but, like, shouldn't I give back?
Should you
But
pass on a legacy is what you're going with, right?
But then it's not even pass on the legacy. It's like, okay, at what point do you bestow upon others more that is a detriment to your own family? Whatever that metric is, whatever that equation is. Not saying that I've hit it. I'm not saying that at all. But it's like a fine line between at what point does, like, 1% increase in doing for others result in a 1% decrease to my family. Wherever that equilibrium is, that's where I want to hit. The most amount of good for everybody else and the most amount of good for my family. That's the
Well,
the
and that's
goal.
where I talked about the strategic
Not to make
prioritization.
it sound like I'm some, like, altruistic person.
But
Listen, I'm a greedy
it's
cunt
not.
as much as the next man. You know what I mean?
But the whole point is, how do you prioritize and how do you align on what's most important to you?
I'm gonna die in the next 60 years if I'm lucky.
Dude, I give my
Right?
wife shit all the time. I'm probably dead fucking tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's like, what am I gonna leave behind?
I've lived 8 out of my 9 lives already.
Do you ever think about that? Like, what are you gonna leave behind?
Oh yeah,
What's your answer?
a lot of great fucking memories.
Is that what you want to leave behind?
Every my life is in a good spot. I want to make sure they're in a good spot, and they are. Problem is I've got is I jokingly say, but I'm not really joking. I didn't give a fuck for so long that I just enjoyed life. And I still to this day, when my ticket's punched, it's punched. It's outside my control. But then I get the lecture. You don't have to go drive your car through the mountains, driving like you're stupid at 63 years old. You don't have to do this. You're making decisions. I go, when my ticket's punched, it doesn't matter. I need to enjoy life still. I'm not leaving anybody in my life in a negative impact. But my wife's like, and this is bringing her direct conversation, but I want you around longer. I want to grow old with you. Now, granted, we're 5-year anniversary coming up this year.
Holla.
But, I mean, for so long, I lived that life that, hell, it's me. My kids will be taken care of. I'm not worried about it. Now I got to think about what I think is okay may not be okay to somebody else.
You know,
I mean, I got on the highway the other day, and I don't drive stupid when she's in the car. When she's not, I may.
you enjoy your car.
I enjoy my cars. We've brought it up earlier. I like my toys. Jeremy's ridden with me. Craig's ridden with me. I mean, and I may have got on a little bit getting on the highway. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what are you talking about? You need to do that. Do what? It's not a racetrack. Back in my mind, I can't say it to her. I'm leaving fucking pit row, getting ready to enter the racetrack. You're right. I'm not on the racetrack yet. I'm still in pit row. But I got to get up to speed. It's a guy's mindset versus women's when it comes to that.
Sometimes I wish I could just be content.
I'm not.
Sometimes
At 63, I'm not. I still want more. I still push for things.
I know, but like, isn't like the simplicity of content a content lifestyle? Like, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time. I like who I am. I like my life. I like everything that it's afforded me. Sometimes I think to myself, what if I was a bachelor making $50,000 a year just chilling on the internet? I don't know. I wouldn't be coaching wrestling.
That's right.
Jimmy, forgive me. We derailed. We didn't have the conversation that I thought we were gonna have. But to you,
Did we
Alex,
miss anything you wanted to touch base on that you want to hit
I
now?
wanted to talk about more about you. So I'm sorry.
What is there about me?
There's a lot.
I'm
There's
just
a
Jimmy
lot.
Range.
No, there's like the tie-in with MMA and how we met but
I'm a lucky motherfucker when it comes to that. I've met some great friends, built some incredible relationships, all by the pure luck that I reached out to a Facebook ad looking for a fucking ring girl and said, "Who's shooting
I'm
your
a ring
fights?
girl.
Who's shooting your fights?"
Jimmy Range is the hottest girl I've seen.
I'm the fattest ring girl you've seen. I'll say that.
I don't say this often, but I'm really glad I decided to fight. Not just because of the fighting and all that other stuff. The network that I've developed, the people that I've met, the individuals that I've interacted with, you so among them. I mean, even Bob would be in that category when he was alive. Rest in peace.
I'd love to hear a fucking conversation with him on a show like this. But you have to be able to fire up.
That's the other
Or
thing.
or at least plan ahead of time.
Can I tell you one?
He'd do a gummy for you.
Can I tell you one thing? I have had one guest on whose son has reached out to me, and they don't know that this has happened, and it never put it into perspective about the podcast. But they said to me, like, my parent. I'm trying to leave like the genders out of it to make it neutral. The parent of mine, I've never heard them talk like this or anything like that. Thank you so much. And it made me realize, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with this. I really don't.
You don't have to.
But it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of value for myself, the people viewing it, what have you. And I think we're going to do it for a while longer. That's what I think.
Dude, we're 5 years in.
Holy shit.
You got more shows than us, but we're 5 years in.
I didn't know that. Well, how many? You guys do one every other week?
Well, we had a few gaps in there that were more
50,
than that.
what is it, 56, 54 weeks in a
we're-
year? 56, right?
50
52?
52 a year.
52 weeks in a year. Every other week would roughly say...
We should be on 100 plus, and
What
we're
is
not
that,
quite at 100.
26? Yeah, 26 week. So 26 times 5.
We should be at 130.
What are you guys at?
80, 90 something.
Oh, we're almost on the... No, you guys have
No,
more
we're
episodes than I.
similar to you guys.
Yeah, can I tell you something? No, I'm about to cut back on the... Dude, I can't do 8 episodes a month.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I love it. I enjoy this. I look forward to this. It doesn't feel like work. I want to say that. But it's the bandwidth. And it's like, sometimes I find myself where like I only have one day a week open. So like I'll do back-to-back episodes. And then sometimes I feel like I'm not giving like my all to the guest. Like you're giving me 3 fucking hours of your time. The least I can do is like be here for it and have a good conversation. I don't want
Well, the secret to me is showing up on your show and getting you to have good conversations to get you drunk and bringing a whiskey you like.
This is actually really good. I didn't think we were gonna drink this much. Jimmy,
You should have seen the pour I had last night.
listen, I appreciate you.
Likewise,
I want you to
sir.
know that this was an absolute pleasure of
I
mine.
enjoyed it.
And I would like to have you on again. This time, I will not derail it with conversations of geopolitics and taxation, but I would like to dive into more about yourself because though you might be humble in saying this, I think you have a story to tell, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. So I'm sorry.
I'd gladly come back, sir. It was enjoyable. It was a great conversation.